6 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good evening, Chicago, and welcome to another Friday night edition of Chicago Corner. I want to welcome you all to the show and thank you for joining us tonight. I want to see who's in our live chat. We got Lana Dell, Hates the Clock. Hey, Lana. Hobo Roadie, Kathy Powers, 2022, Art Medina. Yes, a lot happened in Chicago this week. Jimmy, hey, I hope that after tonight you continue going off to save the world. And of course, at Heller, we're a Pilgrim. We have a very, very juicy exclusive to share tonight. I guess I don't want to give away the details too quickly. I think probably before I preface this and introduce our guest, I should share our breaking news intro. That should whet everybody's appetites. Get them all ready for the intro to my friend Shane Coughlin from KRTD Media in New York. And Shane, I want to thank you for joining us on the show this evening and sharing what you did with me, because I think that everyone's going to be very, very interested in learning how the sausage is made behind the scenes. And before we continue, I also want to welcome my venerable co-host this evening, Mr. Edward Heller.
Speaking of how the sausage is made, happy Pizza Friday, everyone.
There you go. It's always Pizza Friday with Edward Heller. So Shane is the CEO of KRTD Media in New York. I join Shane every once in a while on, we were doing First Fridays on KRTD Media on YouTube. That's kind of been put on hold until you're getting a new show started. But why don't you share, Shane, with the audience before we get into this breaking news? Share a little bit about KRTD Media, what you do, how people can find you on your channel in New York, and what your channel's mission statement is all about.
Absolutely. So KRTD Media was started in 2020 during the pandemic, COVID lockdowns, as a lot of things were. It was started as an independent media outlet, and on KRTD Media, it's a network. We have a ton of different shows, all kinds of great people from across the country working together, and bringing you different shows, like the news show that Jerry would occasionally guest co-host that we've done. Jimmy has a new show now called What, which is Monday through Friday. For everybody, just so you, and number of different MMT economics content that we've been doing, education. And if anyone wants to check it out, it's Kerberos Media Productions on YouTube. I don't want to, do too much of a shameless plug here.
No. We're all about shameless plugs, especially when people are willing to come over and help share exclusive stories with us. And I found that this one was very, very juicy. So let's get in. Actually, one other question. How long have you were you guys around before pre-pandemic, or did you form during the pandemic?
We formed, the exact date of our formation was March well, I don't have an exact date, but it was about mid-March during the pandemic. The plans for us to form were in April leading up to the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit and it gave us the opportunity to form.
And how can people find you guys on YouTube? Is it under Kerberos? Is your channel under Kerberos or KRTD? Oh, there you go. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, if you go to youtube.com/KRTD Media, you'll find us, or you can type in Kerberos Media Productions, or you can type in KRTD Media. We'll pop up. It's a three-headed dog, very easy to spot.
Cool. So, all right. So I have for tonight. Right. Let me do this the right way. How do they do it in the Warriors? They do. I did it before. KRTD Media. Lori Lightfoot come out to play. Yay! I got my beers tonight. Because this is a good fun story. I'm going to pop one before we start. So Shane,
Yeah, it's definitely a night to be drinking.
there you go. Whoa!
Here we go.
Shane is very active, attending different political events in New York. And Shane, share with us what happened at one of the last DNC get-togethers that you attended, that you witnessed in the conversation, as you shared with me, regarding our favorite. Where is she here? And you know what? She is. I got to give her credit. She is a really, really amazing dresser. Our very own Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Okay. So, a lot of people don't know that this goes on. So the DNC, they run candidates, and everybody knows that they do that, and they have their own backed candidates. What people don't realize is how they see how the public is going to react to a candidate. So they have meetings. I got invited to this meeting through a favor. I don't want to name too many names, but the way they do this, I'll just give a breakdown. So the DNC has meetings. It's a specific committee that does this. I think it's the Media Outreach Committee or something to that effect. I probably got the name of the committee wrong, but what they do is they have meetings. They have media personalities there, bloggers.
And you attended personally. You were in.
And I attended personally. Yes, okay. They have bloggers, independent commentators, newspaper writers, etc. And they will leak names.
Okay.
We're thinking about running this person for this. How do you feel about this? And what they want us to do is actually what I'm doing right now. Is I'm coming on here, I'm playing into their hands, but
yeah.
And they want the public reaction to Bob. We're gonna run Bob. How does everybody feel about Bob? But in this case, Bob is your Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
The widely reviled Mayor Lori Lightfoot, which astounds me.
Are you telling us they're asking you?
They're floating this trial balloon. Go ahead, Ed.
I'm sorry, Jerry. Are you telling us that they said, "Oh, what do you think about Lori Lightfoot for president?" Is that what they asked you?
Too soon, Ed. Too soon. Go ahead, Shane.
They're not interested in president. So what they were talking about is at the end of the mayor's race, somewhere, whenever the next governor's race for Illinois is,
boom,
running her for governor of Illinois, not with the intention to win the governor's race. That is not their intention. Their intention is to have her run for a congressional seat, which they, I quote, and I don't want to say who said this, said it could be anywhere because it doesn't matter where you run, even if you're not from there. But they'd like to run her for governor is the idea. She gets name recognition from being governor or from, running in that race. And then she runs for a congressional seat.
Because you all know she's not finished here. Now, I think it's interesting that they're thinking of running her for governor, knowing she has no chance, simply to move the pieces around the board to position her for Congress. And Shane, why do they feel that this is a good idea to run her? What possible, I guess, issues does she? What kind of what in her? I guess what in her platform appeals to them as far as thinking that this is a good idea? Did they share any of that?
Yes. So they said she's gay,
and
and that she's a woman,
and
that she's a minority,
and
But she ran on for mayor.
and that she's younger.
Did they forget to mention? Did you chime in? Yeah, but she's useless.
Well, we were all muted.
excuse me, Jerry, I am not useless. I am totally gonna have the worst crashes possible next year when we have NASCAR downtown. Did I say crashes out loud? I meant parties. The worst, I mean, best part, not worst parties, best parties for NASCAR next year. And so I'm totally qualified for anything that these yutzes in the DNC think that I am going to be qualified. I'm losing my train of thought. Goodbye, Jerry.
That crash can't come soon enough. Shane, I know that there were some other media personality. I mean, you stated there are media personalities at these gatherings, and I was particularly intrigued by you sharing with me that the Men's Warehouse male mannequin, Don Lemon, was there. And that Don Lemon shared, I guess, his overinflated sense of value in how he could help drive the narrative to the public embracing our own Mayor Lori Lightfoot in a gubernatorial run.
The same Don Lemon that lost his show?
Yes.
That Don Lemon?
That Don Lemon, the one who decided to publicly smear Joe Rogan, claiming he was using horse paste when he was using prescribed ivermectin, treating his bout with the virus earlier this year.
Yeah, he said something about being loved in Chicago or Illinois or something like that, and that he would probably give an endorsement, and that would be helpful in that. Something about vacationing in Illinois when he was 11 and 12 years old.
I see. Because we all remember that.
So it's all about tourism then for him.
I find this utterly hilarious because I guess what the DNC does not realize that the rest of the entire state hates her. And it's primarily, although I'm not going to say the out of control crime in Chicago is all her fault. It's not. It's generations of inaction regarding investment in our neighborhoods and in helping people across the city. But again, it just blows me away that they think this is a good idea. Like downstate, the rest of the state of Illinois looks at Chicago like it's its own state. Mm-hmm. How do they possibly think that? Interestingly enough, too, if they think she's going to win the state because she's young, gay, black, and a woman, they haven't looked at the more conservative demographics across the rest of the state of Illinois.
Well, they have a solution for that.
Oh, all right. Share, please.
So their solution for that is that they'd like to run her as a right-wing Democrat. But a reasonable right-wing Democrat who is also liberal, but right-wing at the same time, is how they put it.
Okay, pretty much all the Democrats are right-wing.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really distinguish.
But you know what, Ed? That shows how fucking tone-deaf the Democratic Party is, how out of touch they are. And I've said this a million times before, and I'll say it again. I know I'm going to ad nauseum. The Republicans that were embarrassed by their party because of the extreme right-wing conservative religious wackos that took over the party infiltrated the Democratic Party. So we've got Democrats are Republican light and the Republicans are batshit crazy. There is no real left anymore. So that's why they're, kind of wandering through the fog of thinking that this is a good idea, because they essentially are really not that different from the Republicans aside from the extreme religious component. Did they mention anything about the mayor's? Well, I'll just let her share herself.
You dicks, what the fuck were you thinking? You make some kind of secret agreement with the Italians. You're out there measuring your dicks with the Italians, seeing who's got the biggest dicks. You're out there stroking your dicks over the Columbus statue. My dick is bigger than yours and the Italians. I have the biggest dick in Chicago.
Were they aware of her claim off the record that she's currently going to be defending in court because someone filed suit against her for the behind closed doors claim that she had the big dick while she was also giving the city employee harassment over our Columbus statue controversy?
No, they didn't talk much about that. They talked a lot of identity politics,
Of course,
for the entirety of the meeting, and they said that she can run as both a liberal and a conservative at the same time, and it made a lot of sense to them, even though they were kind of talking in circles.
Because so let me ask you this: was your sense that essentially this was? I mean, we all talk about this all the time. The Democratic Party has become the conservative Republican light, and I know that Constipational Conservative is in the live chat, and I know that he's a big critic of the Democrats. I just don't understand.
Come on, Jerry. Come on.
Hold on. Let me finish my sentence.
He's contributional conservative. Sorry to interrupt.
I know, but I want to finish a sentence before people chime in here. I don't understand why people like Constipational Conservative don't embrace today's Democrats, because they're Republican light with all the wacko stuff that, old school Republicans used to represent.
Well, that's what they were talking about, having her run as a 1980s style Democrat, but like a 1980s style Republican as a Democrat.
They're already doing that.
Right.
But they wanted her to emphasize on it.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Shane. Did they bring up any other potential candidates, or was this all about Lightfoot?
The meeting was all about Lightfoot in regards to Chicago. Other candidates they were talking about were presidential candidates. Example, like one of the ones was Hillary Clinton as a presidential candidate. They were trying to push. They were trying to push Christine Pelosi as a congressional candidate.
My God.
And they were trying to push Hillary's daughter.
Yeah, I've seen that too. They want to bring in it's the dynasty. It's the Clinton dynasty. They're going to introduce Chelsea next.
Jerry, they just won't go away.
Yeah. There were
This is the state of the left wing in the United States. They're not advocating for the working class. They're not advocating to give Medicare to everybody or health care to everybody. They're not advocating to reduce crippling student debt. They're not doing anything to address our homeless epidemic in this country. They want to run Lori Lightfoot because she's a gay woman of color. That's all that matters to today's Democratic Party.
A young gay woman of color.
She's not that young.
I think anybody who's paid attention to her since she got into office has noticed how much grayer her hair has gotten.
No.
She's the thinnest skinned and fastest aging mayor that I think we've ever had.
Worse than Rob, which is saying something.
He was mentioned as well at the meeting.
I am not surprised. Rom, I mean, we couldn't get him far enough from us as ambassador to Japan. Another jagoff failing upward after covering up the Laquan McDonald execution.
He was another one they talked about for a congressional run.
He wasn't he already in Congress?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
When?
That's
somebody else.
That's what preceded. No, I think Ron was in Congress. It preceded him becoming chief of staff.
I think that's right. Yeah, but they've talked about him for another congressional run, Lightfoot for a congressional run. They've got a couple of other people in Chicago that I'm not remembering the names of right now, but they talked about maybe 5 or 6 different seats.
Yeah, he served. Yeah, Rahm served 3 terms in the House of Representatives.
Right.
Okay.
Congressman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are seeing the revolving door of Dino's Democrats in name only failing upward to continue to feed into this neoliberal nightmare that we're all suffering from. There's no respite. There's no relief. There's nowhere to go aside from continuing to just emphasize and beg more strong third-party candidates to emerge. I don't know where they're going to come from. I don't know how they're going to fund their runs. The problem here, too, is that Lightfoot has got the power and the war chest of the DNC behind her, because much like every other neoliberal Democrat that they run and support, she'll say anything and stand for nothing. She's a puppet like the rest of them, like Kamala Harris, who couldn't get one delegate while she was running for president before Tulsi Gabbard kneecapped her and exposed what a horrible choice she was. So naturally, she failed upward into the vice presidency, because that's who the Democrats wanted to be president, because they knew says anything, stands for nothing. She's easily malleable. They appeal to their egos. They decided to appeal to Biden's ego, put Kamala in place for when he strokes out, and they got what they wanted to begin with. There's no, what did Carlin say? It's the illusion of choice. You have no choice. Yeah. And this is how they play it behind the scenes.
Yeah, all they're doing is electing people who will do what the corporate and wealthy want. And really, they're just puppets.
Mm-hmm. Now, the reason they leak this to me is so they can see what the public reaction is. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask your chat what their opinion, the public opinion in the Chicago Corner chat about Gordon Lightfoot for governor or for Congress. What does everybody think?
The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but in Chicago.
Yeah. I think that we should, as Kit likes to say over at Hardlands Media, let's have democracy in the chat. Yeah. Everybody was assembled. I think we got 15 viewers.
So
everybody share your thoughts.
Yeah, so vote.
I thought we'd have more comments in the chat that I could just share everybody's thoughts there, but anyway, I'm sorry, Ed. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was kind of like I'm kind of guiding the show in a way that I want to.
That's okay, Jerry. I was just going to say vote 1 if the DNC should be dropped into the nearest volcano, and then vote 2 if they should just become the new Whigs party and be added to the Wikipedia list of defunct political parties.
Oh yeah, the Whig Party.
Oh my God! Even a broken clock is right twice a day, and I agree. Me too. Constitutional conservative.
And do we need a third option there? I don't know. I think we're good with 2.
Yeah. Well,
this is why people say voting doesn't matter, because it's a rigged game a lot of the time.
The fact that they're doing this behind closed doors in those smoky rooms. Remember when the DNC was accused of rigging the primaries with Bernie Sanders, they were taken to court on it. They said, we have a right to do it. We're a corporation. We can do, or how was it? They were privately held, or they had the right to do it behind closed doors because they were an independent organization. They didn't really have to.
Yeah, they're not accountable to the public in their perspective legally.
Right.
And also they made that legal argument that no other person is a Democrat other than the actual members of the DNC.
Right.
So when you say you're voting as a Democrat, no, you might be voting for the Democrats, but you're not one.
They're making the decisions in those smoky cigar laden rooms. That's what they're doing, and nothing's changed since the days when Daley had an influence on Kennedy getting elected. Nothing's changed. But you know what? This is in both parties. Let's not delude ourselves. Although I will say it's interesting, in the last election, I know that the Republicans thought that Jeb Bush had it in the bag. They all reviled Trump. But once he ran as a phony populist, where, for all of his weaknesses, I think Bernie Sanders was a legitimate, honest populist, and that he would have really followed through on serving the people had they run things honestly.
Yeah, if he'd managed to get past the congressional gridlock. So
right.
But still, we'd have had, a stone's throw chance in hell instead of a flame's chance in hell. Or no, an ice cube's chance in hell. Mm-hmm. I'm mixing my metaphors, but it's fun.
Well, getting back to my point, you had Trump running as a populist. The Republicans reviled him, but once he won, because it was like the Tea Party. I mean, he basically also appealed to the tea baggers, right? This populist movement that was trying to kind of step past the Republican Party. That's when they embraced him, when they realized they didn't have a choice, because he was able to get that whole populist vote in his favor. So that's when the Republicans decided to embrace Trump and make decisions behind the scenes with him. So anyway, I thought that this was very, very revealing, and I think that it's just, again, more evidence that we have to share that you may think you're voting, your vote is making a choice when you're supporting a Democratic candidate, but the Democratic candidates that you're given those decisions are made behind the scenes. I don't think that the primaries matter anymore, that they're floating these trial balloons right now, as Shane is sharing with this meeting where media personalities were assembled to kind of float this out. I hope they get the message that, no, this is a really, really bad idea, because she's completely ineffective in the city of Chicago. All of our problems are because she's thin-skinned, tone deaf, do nothing, only catering to special interests, corporations, the elites of Chicago. And the longer she's mayor here, the more damage she's going to do. And this is not damage that needs to go down to the governor's office or Congress or the Senate or wherever. They think that she's going to be a very easily controllable puppet because of her identity, which matters for nothing here, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, in what you're saying, what you just said, she's the perfect candidate for Congress, at least the current version of Congress, because she'll fit right in with the rest of those intransigent, feckless failures who are doing nothing to help the people and everything to fill their pockets and to just fuel the military-industrial complex.
Now, Lana, I didn't say don't vote. I said, let me clarify my intention. If anybody thinks that voting Democrat is going to get anything done, forget it. Forget about it. Ed, to a point that, we follow the stock market. Did you see Gary Gensler suddenly saying he's going to propose really serious measures against all the hedge funds and Wall Street? Why? Because midterms. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Because midterms are coming up, and he's going to act like he's going to propose they're going to do something. Everybody's going to think, oh, wow, finally, Gary Gensler, he's a Democrat. We're going to support the Democratic Party because finally Gary Gensler at the SEC is going to do something to serve retail investors and balance the market. And once the election passes and all of those Democrats get reelected at the midterms that they're relying on, nothing's going to change. So, Lana, to your point, I'm not saying don't vote. I guess what I'm saying is be very, very wary of all the promises and understand what's happening behind the scenes, that I don't think you can change the Democratic Party from within by letting the bear swallow you. Kit made this point on Twitter not too long ago. He said, so many of these Democrats act like they're going to change the party from within. It's like letting a bear eat you, right? You're going to change the bear from within. What you're failing to realize is once the bear's done eating you, the bear's just going to shit you out. Mm-hmm. So there is no changing this party from within. It's third-party candidates. So also to Lana's point, and I respectfully am curious that you disagree. I don't know if you disagree with this point that I just addressed, or if there's more, because I would like to understand more where you disagree, or if you still disagree after I kind of clarified that point. So.
Yeah, I think, the other difficulty, of course, is when you have a system that's basically run by a duopoly, and they're more or less just playing off each other. They're mainly working together, pretending they aren't. when you try to change the rules on them, they're extremely resistant to it. So if you're going to pressure them to change their own internal rules, good luck with that. They're not going to want to do it.
Right.
You're going to have a heck of a time getting any of that type of regulation or change happening if you're trying to run it from the inside.
So Lana's clarified, which said, disagree with not voting in the primary. Most people don't, which is why we get the same bought incumbents. Well, okay.
I think
Democratic primaries, or I mean, if we know, okay, so I guess look what happened when Bernie ran in the Democratic primaries. I mean, there was a groundswell. He won the first two primary. He won the first primary. What was it in Nevada,
Iowa,
New Hampshire, and Iowa, which normally means historically the candidate that wins those three primaries goes on to get the nomination until you've got Barack Obama step forward behind the scenes. And what I like to call Rat Fuck Tuesday, get Klobuchar and Buttigieg to drop out and rally around Biden because they basically appeal to the same voter base and completely derail what the people wanted. Now, okay, I'm not going to say don't vote in the primaries, but we saw what happened last time, and we saw the excuses they made to get away with it. So I would also say, Lana, this is what I do agree with. I'm not saying don't vote. Yeah, vote for the candidate you like regardless of party. And I would go further and say the candidates I vote for are the ones that I feel reflect my values. If a candidate, if the only time I don't vote is if neither candidate that I'm stuck with reflects my values, I'm not voting for them. I'm not rewarding them.
So, what Lana specifically, and I've had many conversations with Lana about this, just for anybody who's not understanding exactly what she's saying, her idea is vote in every primary and register in whatever primary of that representative, basically to knock them out of their seat. When you get to the general, you can vote third party or you can vote for the candidate you use to knock them out. But the idea she's trying to do is knock out the incumbent and in the general, do whatever you want.
She's talking about strategy there. Okay, I can understand that.
Okay. Well, okay, so yeah, you're right. Not voting doesn't accomplish anything, I guess. I just feel like once you get past the primaries and you realize they've rigged and selected who they want, undermining the primary process like they did with Sanders, that's at the point. I mean, I voted in the primaries. I think it was when we were stuck with Clinton last time and Trump after the primaries, after I saw what they did to Sanders during the second primary, the second major primary. I'm like, fuck it. I'm never going to vote for Trump, but I'm not going to reward Hillary Clinton after I just saw how Obama undermined things the second time around.
And that's why she lost.
That's exactly why she lost. Thank you. Yep.
And I also think, changing the party within, there's a difference between the state party, the city party, and the federal party. Because if the lower you go in the level, you can make more change because it's a smaller system. The bigger you go in federal, it's much, much harder to change anything. But in a small town or a small city, you might have a shot depending on what the politics are like in that area.
Now, Constitutional Conservative makes a point. Trump proved it can be done, and look what they did to him, whether you like or hate Trump. He scared the shit out of them. Well, he scared the Republicans, Constitutional Conservative, but ultimately they rallied around him when they realized his populist message is what got him elected. Suddenly they swarmed around him like flies to shit is what it was, because then they didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Well, that and the Republicans don't cheat nearly as bad as the Democrats do during their primaries.
Do you ever hear the Republicans say, don't vote for libertarians, it'll split the vote? That's a genuine question. Has anyone ever heard that?
It's been a while, but it doesn't happen often.
Mm-hmm. The Democrats say, don't vote green, it'll split the vote. The Republicans don't whine about the libertarians.
Nobody deserves or is entitled to your vote. They need to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you don't identify with anyone running in the Democratic primary, I don't care if you don't vote for either of them. It may be a strategy for someone who still believes that the Democratic Party is something worth investing in, but if I'm not going to hold you responsible for what happens there if you make the choice, and it's your choice, to not vote in that. If you don't want to participate in a rigged game, it's perfectly reasonable.
Lana makes another good point. Republicans always vote. That's very, very true.
That's true.
Even when people came out and supported Sanders, not enough progressives supported his populist platform like they did Trump. But, it's funny. There have been a lot of, I remember specifically Barry Weiss, okay, New York Times reporter, who went on Joe Rogan's show and was carrying on that she didn't want to see the Democrats. She's basically saying, look how the Republicans got together, and we don't want to be like the Republicans because look how they organized and got Trump elected. It's like, no, actually, you want to organize like the Republicans do to get your progressive candidate elected. And that's where things failed with, I know a lot of progressives came out for Sanders, but I was just like astounded that it's like that she was claiming that you don't want to be like the Republicans. No, you do. You want to get out and vote. You want to organize the way that the teabaggers organized. The teabaggers organizing is what's changed the Republican Party. Now, if progressives were able to organize the same way, you would hope. Well, progressive has also been co-opted and bastardized now by neoliberals who've used that word and kind of diluted what it actually means.
Joe Manchin himself has called himself progressive, so.
Yeah, the problem with what I would consider the real portions of the left is that they're just too splintered in the different directions that they want.
Well, the other thing I was gonna mention is the left, and this is an unpopular thing to say on the left eats its own and is kind of like a circular firing squad, and will say, oh, well, this person isn't left enough for me, so they're not really on the left, when in reality, we agree on 75% of the issues, but we don't agree on the strategy to get there. Because I see this a lot.
But the thing is, Shane, you also have this dynasty mentality in the Democratic Party, the Clintons, right? They're talking about running Chelsea or Hillary again, or, I've even seen, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, right? Mm-hmm. This is like a political monarchy in this country where it's damn near impossible for anybody to emerge in the party to really try to change it, because you have a very elitist control over the party by those that have been in it for generations and control the money and have the ability to just, if you're not with them, you're out.
But the neoliberals are also more organized than us. And I mean this generally. I went to a meeting about climate change, and it was protest. We were going to plan something. And people and what ended up happening was some of the people were quote unquote less left because some of the activists in there were TYT viewers. And it caused a huge fight. Everybody turned on each other because some of them were Jimmy Dore viewers and some of them were TYT viewers. They turned on each other, refused to work with each other, and the meeting ended because they said, we can't work with this one because you watch that, and I can't work with you because you watch that. And this happens. I've been in over 20 meetings where that has been the outcome.
And this is by design, Shane. They do this to disrupt any type of solidarity on the left. And a number of people are noticing it and realizing that we're not going to play that game anymore.
No,
but at the same time, it's still happening in certain circles, and you're seeing some of that.
Right. Look, I was the one person in that meeting, or two people in that meeting, were saying, "Hey, I don't care what show you watch. I don't care about any of that or whatever. If we agree on the issue of climate change, which is what we're here to talk about, let's work on that."
Yeah, that's where we should be. It should be all about the issues.
All right, so last comment on this before we move on. Lana, thank you. I always enjoy Lana's contributions to our conversation here. Suppose we have what some people call a successful general strike and still have the same old relics in office. What changes will take place? We've been talking about general strikes forever over at Hardlands Media on the national show. I think we brought it up several times here on Chicago Corner. It requires an organizational structure to get it done. I mean, we're seeing like, what's the word? strikes, Starbucks, right? Starbucks workers are unionizing and striking. Amazon unions are organizing and striking. The problem, Lana, I think that, again, for the past year, it's been proposed a general strike. How do we get that to happen, to really shake the bones of the Democratic Party? I know that a few weeks back, or maybe a month back, there was a fear of a railroad strike, which would have completely shut everything down, and then Biden somehow negotiated with them. I really wish that strike had gone through, because that would have been, I think, a good way to preface a general strike. If that had started and everyone else had kind of fallen in a line and shut things down.
No,
I think.
Absolutely. But the fear of a strike, that shows, is enough to move the president on something that he does not want to do. So that's something. Even though they didn't get probably as much as they could had they actually struck, they made him move. They forced his hand.
Well, this is what we're looking at. The DNC thinks that what you're seeing on screen is a good idea for the governor's office of the state of Illinois. I think Ed and I think if Kira were here, we would respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Because, when it comes to doing things here in Chicago, this seems to be more of her priorities.
Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place?
Yeah, the DNC thinks that's a good idea.
Just want to say I love all your effects.
Thank you. I work very hard to put things together to entertain our viewers. I know a lot of stuff is repeated, but it just punctuates. And you know what, Ed? I don't have my glasses and my hat here, but thanks for representing as a news brother.
Yeah, when the song came on, I kind of felt the need.
Yeah. She's more about embracing her celebrity. And we shared on the show this past Tuesday. She had a private call to action to organize her petition collectors, and didn't want the media there because it was in a church. And there's a question about 501(c) issues with a church supporting a candidate for political office because the pastor was there propping her up. And I guess, as Kathy Powers, friend of the show in the live chat, mentioned, the pastor was talking about all the good things she'd done for the West and South Side communities. It's like she hasn't done anything. She's abandoned those communities. But she's pandering to good people in those communities who give people the benefit of the doubt because they're people of faith. And I feel that she's preying upon them. She's preying upon their good nature to get them to go out and do her bidding to collect those petitions and get her on the ballot this next round, because she just has no self-awareness, man. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb here, but I'm going to say it. I mean, she's a textbook sociopath. She doesn't seem to have a conscience about the effects of what she's not doing. When all of this stuff is presented before her and journalists critiquing her at press conferences or at public events, she doesn't want to hear it. She just wants to, act like a clown, go on social media, wear her little outfits all the time. I mean, it has become, it's so easy to make fun of. But it really does speak to the fact that it's like I think that she can claim she's taking her job seriously. I don't see how she is. Embracing the casino that's going to bring more crime to Chicago, doing all these deals with all of these cronies, not opening up the TIF funds, not reopening or opening more mental health clinics, not investing in these South and West Side communities, constantly pandering to the police while acting like she's a police reformer, basically playing both sides of the fence there too. It's just so transparent to me. All right, so Ed,
We
yeah,
got
please.
we got some tips here. We got a couple on Rokfin. We got one on YouTube, and the porn bots are back. Hooray!
What did I say to trigger them?
I don't know, but they like us.
Thanks, Constitutional Conservative. Appreciate that. If everybody can, though, please also join us on Rokfin, where all the monetization actually goes to us. It doesn't get diluted. And thank you. Actually, we got some tips on Rokfin. We got $4 in tips. I see Dominic there. Thank you, Dominic, for the $2 super chat on Rokfin. And who else? Actually, I see Dominic tipped twice. Thank you. And let me share Dominic's comments. I can't open them up. I don't know how to open them up from the StreamYard.
You want me to send you a link, Jerry?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Okay. So we got Dominic, who shares liberals and conservatives alike are increasingly terrified of each other's political beliefs. They fight with each other over ideological issues that neither have any political control over. On the other hand, politicians are only interested in controlling their government's treasuries to benefit themselves and their corporate donors. Their only ideology is keeping themselves in power. Progressive voters have one thing in common with MAGA voters that make all politicians stand up and applaud them for it. Both want politicians to make all of their political decisions for them, to submissively follow and obey. What kind of a voter are you? IndependentVoterParty.org. I would encourage everybody who might be watching on their computers right now in their browsers, open your browsers, save and visit IndependentVoterParty.org. Check out Dominic's site. He's got really good strategies there. He's got a lot to share relating to this whole conversation that we're talking about all the time with third parties and how we can try to hold the existing parties accountable. So much to go into with what Dominic's work is over at independentvoterparty.org. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time in this broadcast to cover it, but I do want to encourage everybody to please go over there. Lana, thank you so much. Oh my God, Lana, love you. Thank you for the super sticker. You're a doll. Appreciate that immensely. Immensely. Can't thank all of our supporters enough as we are building our Chicago Corner channel. So Shane, I know that you can't stay with us for the whole show. We have one more story coming up. Do you need to cut out? Because I don't want to hold you up if you need to go somewhere. You do
need to cut out now. I sorry about that.
No. I think it was fantastic. You were able to spend 48 minutes with us on this this story regarding Lori Lightfoot. What her ambitions are beyond serving the people of the city of Chicago. She's already looking past that, man. The DNC's looking past that. They're basically using her time here in Chicago to position her to control other things later that don't actually and aren't going to benefit the people of the city of Chicago. So
yeah, it's a repeat of basically where Rob ended up being an ambassador.
Yes.
Only they have a different purpose for Lori, apparently.
Right. Using her identity to win votes while she does fucking nothing. Anyway, Shane, thanks for joining us tonight and sharing that exclusive breaking story. I was very, very excited to promote. And hopefully we will see you again soon. I'd love to bring you back, and I look forward to joining you over at KRTD Media for guest hosting programming over there. And again, everybody, I think that I know that Ed shared it in the live chat. I'm going to see if I can go back and bring up that link again to KRTD Media on YouTube.
And then, if you don't mind, I want to plug our website as well.
Please, go ahead.
So our website is kerberosnews.com, KERBEROS news.com. We have a blog there, which is somewhat active sometimes, links to a bunch of our other stuff, information on the team there, all kinds of stuff.
And why don't you share really quickly some of the personalities that host shows there? I know we got Jimmy in the live chat. Jimmy Sunderland is
Jimmy
one.
Sunderland is the president of KRTD Media. She's my she's second in command there. She does a show 5 nights a week or 5 mornings / afternoons a week. And it's called What? Wonderful show.
What with 2 A's?
Yes, What with 2 A's. She's based it off of Hassan Piker's concept. She does it a lot better.
She's improved on Hassan Piker's concept because Hassan Piker is a piker.
Yeah.
It's a piker. Man, talk about like having the right last name.
And KRTD Media is not exclusively leftist. We actually have a show called Cup of Joe, and that's with Joe Evans, or as we call him, Idaho Joe, and he's a libertarian who works a lot with us, and he does a show called that. We have Jeff Epstein. He does a show called Activist MMT, where he brings on different people, interviews them about MMT, and we rerun his show. It's a podcast, but we rerun it on our network. We have a couple of other MMT shows. And then after, this is going to be breaking. I'm going to break it on here. After, in January of 2023, my new show, it's going to be called Roundtables, is going to be starting. And that's going to be a show where we do roundtables and just have discussions across the spectrum about different things. Yeah, Lana makes a good point in the chat there. Yeah, lots of different shows at KRTD. We got some new shows in the works. Lots of great people there. You know, check it out. You blocked the porn bot.
I'm always blocking the porn bot. I don't know what we're saying here that's triggering that algorithm to suddenly have them pop in. Well, I think it's amazing how YouTube doesn't know how to filter the porn bots out, but they will always filter us out for copyright strikes that are actually fair use and shouldn't be struck, that we have to be dealing with.
We got a copyright strike. I think Jimmy did for doing something with the Daily Show guy, Trevor Noah, for reacting to something he did under fair use. She got copyright struck, and YouTube took her whole stream down.
This is why we're over on Rokfin, everybody. So, join us over there more. I love the fact that we're over there now and building an audience there as well. Shane, thanks again for joining us. It's always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jerry. And Ed.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
How about that, Ed? Pre-show, we had Shane backstage, and Ed was, what's this breaking news? What's this breaking news? And I said, Ed, you're the kind of kid who just wants to know what your presents are before Christmas morning.
I'm like, yeah, I do. Well, mostly I had Hanukkah mornings, but yeah, I do want to know. And I'm like, and now that I'm hearing it, I'm like, yeah, that's a typical MO of the DNC. They got all these schemes and plans on how to keep gaining power and to not do anything for you. And I'm not saying that the Republicans don't do this too. I'm just saying the Dems are so much more obvious about it.
Hey, did you see the behind the scenes video of Pelosi in the Capitol January 6th? It was all over Twitter today. Oh, dude. So, Nancy Pelosi's daughter is a filmmaker. Check this out after the show. Apparently, her daughter was at the inauguration inauguration January 6th. And Christine Pelosi, who they, of course, want to elevate, in the dynasty of public office.
Yeah.
And she turned, so they were shooting what was happening behind the scenes, and now they've released it in a Democratic fundraising video showing how strong Nancy Pelosi was behind the scenes. At first, I thought, okay, this shit is
strong. Great. Did you say strong or drunk?
Both. At first, I thought that this footage in this video had to be staged afterwards and cut with actual footage of the January 6th insurrection. But someone on Twitter had brought up the fact, no, and I remember that Pelosi's daughter, Christine, is a filmmaker. So it doesn't surprise me that she whipped out her iPhone or whatever camera she had to document what was happening behind the scenes in the Capitol. But what strikes me as just being utterly hilarious is once Christine Pelosi whips out the camera, starts documenting everything, how much the drinker of the House and Chuck Schumer and they're all playing to the camera. Suddenly this incident,
cameras on, and they got to do their kayfabe,
pretty much. And now they're trying it out as a fundraising tool. So Pelosi was strong.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Chicago Corner, where normally we cover Chicago-related events, but since we had a breaking story regarding politics, we kind of have detoured off into the volleyball gutter of politics momentarily, so we can enjoy some video clips.
Well, as we're talking about the DNC's influence over our mayor, but transitioning, let's go into this story. I am sure everybody's heard about this. For anybody who thought the horrors of psychopaths were limited to the past and the stories of John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer up in Milwaukee, think again. Let's run this video from NBC5 Chicago.
We're going to begin tonight with that strange murder mystery, a report of a missing person that is now turned into a homicide investigation.
A case that took a bizarre turn with the discovery of bloody rags along the lakefront and human remains inside a freezer in a boarding house. NBC5's Regina Waldrop is live with the story. Still so many unanswered questions tonight. Regina?
No, that's right, Allison, and detectives were back at the home late this evening for several hours. Right now, they're not releasing any information on a possible motive or the identity of the victim. As for the suspect, they are still being held on one charge of aggravated assault with a knife.
All right, so actually the victim has been identified. This was, kind of the breaking news as it came from NBC Chicago. Let me get into the story. I wasn't on the fence about covering this, Ed. What struck me about this story was in sharing it and talking about it, I'm not sharing and talking about it because of the exploitation factor. It's a horrifying story. Yeah. And it was one of the big, I was looking at the news cycle this week and there wasn't, this just stood out to me as being like a big story to report on, primarily because I want to bring attention to Francis Walker, who was the victim. This is just a horrible tragedy. And I know that she was known in the community. I believe that her alderman, Andre Vasquez, knew her and was sharing on social media his devastation regarding this story and what happened to her. Let me get into the story as it was reported by Alex V. Hernandez at Block Club Chicago. Woman murdered, dismembered her Westridge landlord after getting an eviction notice, police say. Sandra Kolalu is charged with killing Francis Walker, 69, just days after getting served an eviction notice. Neighbors heard screams, called police, and followed Kolalu when she tried to hide evidence, police said. A tenant of a Westridge boarding house killed her landlord and dismembered her body 2 days after getting an eviction notice, police said. Sandra Kolalu, 36, was charged Wednesday with first-degree murder and concealing a homicide in the killing of Francis Walker, a 69-year-old woman who played piano at the Evanston School of Ballet, police said. Walker was killed Monday, Chief of Detectives Brendan Deanahan said. Walker had served Kolalu with an eviction notice as recently as Saturday. Deanahan said at a news conference, Kolalu killed Walker, dismembered her, put her body in a freezer, and tried to dispose of evidence at a Rogers Park beach, police said. Kolalu also pulled a knife on a tow truck driver she called to take her to the beach, authorities said. Kolalu was charged with aggravated assault for that incident, police said. Police were able to arrest Kolalu thanks to Walker's other tenants who heard screaming, called police, and followed Kolalu as she tried to hide evidence. The neighbors played a crucial part in the investigation, leading officers to find Walker's remains inside a freezer in the home, as well as bloody towels in a trash can at the beach, Deanahan said. I truly want to thank those tenants for their tenacity on realizing that something is definitely wrong, which led to the arrest, Deanahan said. Now, further developments in regards to this story, as also reported by Alex Hernandez subsequently to that first news report.
Oh, there were two articles. Okay, I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, there were two in the show notes. Okay. So she had changed, the landlord who was murdered changed some of the locks to protect residents from the woman who murdered her. Sandra Kalalu was charged with first-degree murder. We went over that. Cook County Judge Kelly McCarthy ordered Kalalu held without bond during a Thursday hearing where new details of the gruesome attack emerged. A relative of Walker's declined comment. Her family launched a Facebook fundraiser hoping to raise $15,000 for her cremation and funeral. And I believe, Ed, you shared the link. Let me share this in the live chat for anybody that wants to contribute to that.
Yeah, Lainey gave us this link.
Yeah, and thanks to Lainey.
Because I believe she reported on this story in its early form on Hard Lens on Thursday.
So here's what's, this is, I'll just read the article. The Post said Walker, a pianist with the Evanston School of Ballet, rented out rooms to women in need of an affordable place to live. She's trying to help people. She leaves behind a husband and her siblings, the Post reads. Prosecutors laid out a case against Kalalu that showed the conflict leading to the attack began days earlier within the white wood-framed home in the 5900 block of North Washtenaw Avenue, where Walker rented rooms to tenants. This is a boarding house. The home was subdivided into 5 units, each with its own locked entrances. Police and prosecutors said each floor also had its own kitchen and bathroom. Prosecutors said Walker lived in the home's first floor, and Kalalu began renting the other unit on that floor in July. Police and prosecutors said after getting complaints from other tenants about Kalalu, Walker changed the locks on 2 interior doors Friday to prevent Kalalu from going into the basement unit of another tenant, prosecutors said. Chief of Detectives Brendan Denahan previously said other residents had complained about Kalalu and were afraid of her. Based on the ongoing conflict between Kalalu and the other tenants, Walker posted an eviction notice on Kalalu's door Sunday. Walker and Kalalu then argued about the eviction around 11 p.m. Around 2:30 a.m. Monday, the other tenants heard Walker and Kalalu arguing, as well as loud bangs coming from their floor. The tenant who lived in the basement heard Kalalu screaming what sounded like a dish hitting the floor, and Walker's voice trying to calm down Kalalu. An upstairs tenant also heard the argument and texted Walker to see if she was okay, but didn't get a response. Between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. Monday, the basement tenant heard the sound of furniture being moved, scratching noises. Jesus Christ. It's a horror movie, Ed. And one person pacing back and forth on the first floor, the prosecutor said. So I know I talked with you, Ed. I had recently watched the Netflix show on Jeffrey Dahmer. And as I'm reading this account of like the neighbors hearing things, it actually kind of reflects what Dahmer's neighbors were going through and calling the police and saying weird shit's going on next door. And sadly, at that time, no attention being paid to it, at least this time. Of course, too late, but another text from Walker's phone said to leave their keys with Kalalu if they moved out, prosecutors said. Given the issues between the offender and the victim, coupled with the eviction notice, the tenants found these texts extremely unusual, prosecutors said. As a result, the basement tenant called police around noon Monday, prosecutors said. An officer who came to the home spoke to Kalalu and the basement tenant and left the area, still unable to reach Walker. Another tenant called police around 5:40 p.m. Monday to file a missing persons report, prosecutors said. When police arrived, officers knocked on. Where were they when they were calling and reporting the noises? Before she was killed and dismembered. When police arrived, officers knocked on Kalalu's door and windows to ask her to come outside, but got no response. Prosecutors said minutes later, Kalalu called a tow truck to take her to Foster Beach. When the tow truck arrived at 6:28 p.m., Kalalu walked towards its holding a black garbage bag. Prosecutors said officers stopped her and got permission to search Kalalu's bedroom. While police searched Kalalu's bedroom, a witness outside looked into the black garbage bag she had been carrying and saw paper, greeting cards, and several white-tarred garbage bags inside. That person reached inside and felt something heavy like sand. Officers searched Kalalu's room. Walker's other tenants exchanged contact information with the tow truck driver and told him they thought Kalalu was dangerous. Police found nothing incriminating when they searched Kalalu's bedroom and released her, prosecutors said. It's not clear if the officers searched the garbage bag. Kalalu then got into the tow truck with the black bag, prosecutors said. This is like Milwaukee and Jeffrey Dahmer all over again, isn't it, Ed?
It sounds similar.
Very similar. The cops who were called to the scene and decided to escort Dahmer back up to his apartment with the underage Asian boy that he ended up murdering. Or outright not even responding to neighbors who said that they smelled and heard things going on next door. Once they reached Foster Beach, the tow truck driver watched Kalalu put the black bag into a garbage can. The driver called one of the residents to tell them what he saw. This is all dependent on the good graces and actions of people seeing what's going on around this, not the cops. I let me just finish this. At that, I don't know what there's to say. I mean, the story kind of just exposes how completely ineffective these fucking cops are. But you know what? As we're going to report in a later story, there are being fundraisers held to raise money for cops to afford their bulletproof vests. Because, you know, this is how good they do their jobs, that we should even, worry about that. I'm kind of like blowing that story in advance. But I mean, when I think about the fact that they're trying to raise money for bulletproof vests, and I see how fucking ineffective they are here, in the light of people calling and reporting this stuff, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to save it for later. I mean, for how much, you know, where's the police budget money going? If they're
we'll get into that. Definitely.
Not if they're having to get fundraisers for things. But
so the article,
this story, I mean, it's disturbing on so many levels. The thing I'm kind of hanging on was the 6 a.m. Text message that came from her phone saying to allow the murderer to take care of the dog. Where's the dog? Now, I was told in the chat that the dog was killed also.
I did read that.
I'm not seeing it in the story. Maybe it was in a different story. But I'm not seeing it here in this one. It's tragic when like this person clearly had some issues going on, regardless of their financial issues, and then, you know, took it a whole other level here.
So while the tow truck driver was watching her put the bags into a garbage can at Foster Beach, 3 of the witnesses from the home drove to Foster Beach, waited until the tow truck driver and Kalalu pulled away, and inspected the trash can. There they found several white garbage bags, which one of the witnesses recognized as the same bags they'd seen inside the black bag at the home earlier. Police officers responding to the scene found paper, greeting cards, pooled blood, and blood-soaked rags inside the white bags. Around the same time, a tenant found blood in Walker's bedroom, near Kalalu's bedroom, and in the home's common area. Police then contacted the tow driver, who was at a mechanic shop with Kalalu, to warn him about the blood that was found. The tow truck driver stalled Kalalu until police arrived, prosecutors said. Officers questioned Kalalu again. And you know what they did after they questioned her again, Ed? You think they arrested her?
They let her go?
They let her go.
What's going on?
Top-notch Chicago police work, isn't it? Because of police involvement, the mechanic refused to work on Kalalu's car, so she asked the tow truck driver to take her to Western and Estes Avenue so she could park her car, prosecutors said. Kalalu paid the tow truck driver using Walker's credit card, prosecutors said. The driver then noticed that Kalalu had a knife with a red handle. She asked the driver to take her to another location, but he refused. Kalalu became upset and aggressively removed her hands from her pockets with a knife with a red handle still in her hand. The driver yelled to the police who were in the area that Kalalu had a knife and used a stick to keep her away from him. Police then arrived and arrested Kalalu. Police searched Walker's home and found her dismembered remains inside a kitchen freezer. Some of the remains are still missing, prosecutors said. Police also found blood in the common area between Walker and Kalalu's rooms, throughout Walker's bedroom, in the area leading to Kalalu's room, the bathroom sink and closet, and on items like 2 bloody chef's knives and a Lysol bottle, prosecutors said. Walker's cell phone was also found in Kalalu's bedroom, prosecutors said. Chief of Detectives Dinahan previously credited the residents for immediately acting on their instincts. The residents are the ones who earned the credit here, to immediately acting on their instincts to uncover what happened to Walker. Because as we've seen from the previous account, CPD clearly had their heads up their fucking asses. Coughlin did not make any statements to police while she was in custody. I truly want to thank those tenants for their tenacity on realizing that something is definitely wrong, which led to the arrest, Dinahan previously said. Coughlin's public defender defended his client's innocence and said the evidence presented is largely circumstantial, according to the Sun-Times. How appropriate, Ed. Her next court date is October 31st.
So the having that bloody knife is circumstantial. You know, there's no way that she doesn't have blood on her clothing. This is super tragic. This is terrible.
Not only is this woman's death tragic, how it exposes how completely ineffective those who are supposed to protect us, who claim they protect us. And Constitutional Conservative in the live chat, yeah, I see your comments. This is what we want the cops to do that they don't, in case you've been missing the memo. Okay?
Yeah, they're not an on-off switch.
Yeah, your sarcasm is really inappropriate here, because this is what we want cops to do. Not harass, not shoot unarmed civilians, not constantly abuse people's civil rights, claim that they feared for their lives, and now, as we're going to report later in the show, beg people for donations to fund their fucking bulletproof vests so they can go shoot people and claim that they fear for their lives by acting like a bunch of yellow-bellied cowards, shooting first and asking questions later. This is what the cops are supposed to be doing, Constitutional Conservative. Please, defend them. Defend everything that happened here. In this statement, oh, now we want cops. What? Is everything that happened and how they completely dropped the ball acceptable to you? Yeah, cops afraid to do that. No, they're not afraid to do their jobs. They're fucking lazy and ineffective is what they are, okay? They're afraid to do their jobs. Fuck off. With all due respect, because I do know Constitutional Conservative, and we disagree on a lot, although it's not personal. Coughlin probably knows how to talk her way out of suspicious, considering she's a criminal. Yeah, there's just so much to unwrap in this story, specifically related to CPD's complete dropping of the ball in every instance that these people at the boarding house were trying to get them over there. This does reflect what happened in the Dahmer story. Ineffective cops. Why would I mean, not completely, because in the Dahmer story, the cops were racist and they didn't want to respond in what was largely a black neighborhood. I don't know what their fucking excuse is here with this the senior boarding house landlord. I don't know, Ed. I mean, the world's just yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. Your thoughts, Ed?
There's nothing more we could say to this other than it's an extremely tragic event that probably didn't have to happen, because there were a lot of failures that happened here. It's not all on the cops. The city failed by closing down all the mental health facilities. I
wonder if they really would have mattered here, though, Ed, because in this case, well, yeah, you can argue this woman was mentally ill.
And,
with a criminal record, she was clearly a psychopath who's...
Well, sure, Jerry, I'm not saying that she wouldn't have done something like this at some point. She had a history of those types of things. But what I am saying is there may have been some situations that exacerbated this, that made it end up this way. I'm not saying... I don't know what I'm saying at this point. It's just
I hear you saying.
I'm saying that there weren't support systems in place for this person to keep her from murdering the other person. and maybe maybe the city could be part of that solution if they wanted to be. Maybe the police could be part of that solution if they wanted to be.
You mean
I don't have much else to add to this. It's
yeah. You mean these police? Near Northside Tavern hosts event to raise money for CPD bulletproof vests. You talked a moment ago about the different levels of where there were breakdowns. The only thing that seemed to work was the residents in the boarding house actually trying to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know where the fuck all the money is going towards police training that they could have been this fucking ineffective responding to the situation. I don't know also with all the money that goes to CPD's budget why they need to raise money for bulletproof vests. Now, Laney told me in Slack when I shared this story that apparently CPD budget doesn't buy bulletproof vests for the cops. I've gone in. Go ahead.
It's hinky, is what it is.
I've gone into fire and police supply stores to purchase like little accessories, like police badge accessories for unrelated shit that I sell on Etsy. I have a little hobby store there. Okay. I do see a lot of police officers go into that store and firefighters go in and purchase their supplies. I assume that what they're purchasing for themselves is supplemented by the police department giving them a stipend to purchase their uniforms, their support gear. Apparently not. This comes to us from WGN, and I'm waiting to see if this video will open up. Let me see if this plays. I don't know if we're going to get a bad commercial here, but hang on a second, guys. It's loading.
Yes, Ben and Micah, a bulletproof vest only lasts about 5 years. That's when the material starts to...
Okay. 5 years.
5 years on a vest. That's when the material begins to break down, is what she was sharing.
Yes, Ben and Micah, a bulletproof vest only lasts about 5 years. That's when the material starts to break down, and it's no longer as safe as it once was for the officer who wears it. Tonight's
okay
at Pippin's Tavern raised money so that bulletproof vests can be purchased for...
All right. Well, we're having problems with the WGN video. Let me read from the article. A near Northside bar held a fundraiser Wednesday evening that aimed to help raise money to provide Chicago police officers with bulletproof vests. The Get Behind the Vest fundraiser, thrown by Pippin's Tavern, was held in partnership with 2nd Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins and Committeeman Tim Egan. Started in 2014 by the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation, the Get Behind the Vest initiative was founded as an effort...
Ben and Micah, a bulletproof vest...
Oh, she's back. I thought I paused her. All right. Was founded as an effort to raise funds for replacement bulletproof vests for Chicago Police Department officers. We've been able to provide 12,000 vests since we started, said Dawn Dolan, a spokeswoman for CPMF. That's husbands, fathers making it home safely. To learn more about Get Behind the Vest or donate towards their mission, visit the organization's website here. The link is in the article as it's in our chat. But what strikes me here, Ed, is that if you have a police department that I feel is completely overfunded, maybe they ought to maybe they should replace their personnel's vests, because maybe the cops who had responded to that particular incident didn't have replacement vests and they feared for their lives, which is why they did nothing. I actually doubt that case.
And apparently, Jerry, this is not the first time they've had fundraisers for vests. I'm looking at WGN's YouTube channel, and they have several posts from the past year or so. Every handful of months, they're talking about another place having a fundraiser. So, I mean, yeah, where's the money going that is the largest line item in the Chicago city budget? Where is that money going if it's not going to equipment like just vests?
You would think with all that money they dole out to the police department that they could afford to buy them their vests.
You would think. You know, I mean, what are they spending it on? Tell us. It's, you know, yeah, they just asked for more money for a helicopter, so they're not spending it on that.
All right. Enough with the cops. I'm just
Yeah.
utterly
It's
disgusted.
exhausting.
It's exhausting with their absolute dereliction of duty and what happened in the previous story regarding the landlord who was murdered. So I'm getting our next story queued up here, and this story comes to us from WGN also. Get ready, people. Get ready to let the outrage flow, because I saw this story, Ed, and I'm like, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Agency for Planning is out with its new transportation plan calling for more expressway lanes and tolls.
WGN's Dana Rebick is live from the Kennedy Expressway at Hubbard's.
More
Cave.
tolls.
Tells us not all drivers like the sound of this plan. Dana?
Hold on. Can you pause that?
That's
Not
right.
all drivers.
Problem with
Not all drivers. Which drivers are okay with this?
No drivers are okay with this, Ed. It's bullshit. Okay? This is more of the manipulation. Oh yeah, you know, the same people who are all for all the speed cameras all over the city and all the red light cameras that are, you know, timed short so that people run into the rear ends of the car in front of them. Do you know what this is? Don't you?
No.
This
What
is such a
Jerry?
crock of shit. Blowjob! Blowjob!
Let's continue.
the express lanes right now driving in and out of the city, as many of us know. Sometimes.
First of all, actually, before I continue, have you ever driven in the express lanes, Ed, going to or from work?
I try to avoid the express lanes on the odd chance that my car decides it wants to break down in them and then strands every other motorist.
Because we both know that express lanes also get congested, right?
Yes, actually, all the lanes right now are
That's correct.
extremely terrible.
So naturally, they think that they're going to sell people on the idea, if you pay the toll for the express lane, you're going to get somewhere faster, as opposed to get stuck without an exit to avoid the congestion in that lane. Because right now, our entire expressway system in Chicago, especially during rush hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. First off, Jerry, the reason why we think this is totally an awesome plan is because, you know how you have the premium services when you try to get one of those gig driver Lyft Uber things. You know how you pay extra so that you can get the car to show up faster. So we figure, well, if they're doing it, well, we could do that with the expressways because we are so freaking brilliant.
Yes, Art, more tolls make people poor. Kathy Powers, yes. When do we pay to breathe?
I can't breathe right now.
Sometimes those express lanes can be just as crowded as the local lanes.
Yeah.
And transportation analysts say in order to fix that problem and to ease congestion all across the Chicago area, drivers may have to pay a price.
Blowjob! Blowjob!
Aren't
Listen
we
to this.
already paying for that stuff?
Listen to this. They're trying to convince people that the way to alleviate congestion is to charge people money to ride in the express lanes that are already congested. With construction, we have 2 seasons in Chicago, construction and winter.
Okay, and here's a crazy idea, Jerry. It's just insane. How about we fix the public transportation system so that it works extremely well, and that will cut down on people having to take their cars to work.
How about we finish the Jane Byrne interchange downtown, which, by the way, everybody, do you know that it's taken longer to complete that interchange than we were in World War II?
Yeah.
Think about that.
We
won a war in less time than it's taking them to complete the Jane Byrne interchange, which is at the heart of all the congestion downtown and clogging everything up at all times of the day.
And that's not to say that we don't have to blame Congress for part of this problem because of their super weak infrastructure bill that should have been at least 10 or 20 times bigger to sufficiently rebuild the roads and bridges in this country.
This is insanity. And the way they're trotting this, they're gaslighting people, presenting all this nonsense to get people to get on board with it when no, we're already paying through the nose for fucking everything. Now they want to start charging you to like use an express lane that's going to congest it anyway. That's already paid for. The purpose of tollways was to pay for new roadways off the regular expressways and to cover that construction. And those toll booths were supposed to close when all that was done. Of course, they never have. Can you imagine how much money the toll booths make every day? I can't even imagine. Anyway, back to the report.
Well, they make even more now that they have the automatic transponders, because then all they can have to do is decide to raise the rate one year, and then half of the population doesn't notice until it hits their bank account.
Yeah.
So I come in on the Eisenhower, and I work about 3 blocks away at the Badnock building. So I've got parking to pay as well as gas.
In order to ease congestion and create revenue for
See that middle lane? That middle lane was the express lane.
infrastructure improvements, the Chicago Metropolitan.
So basically what they're saying is, well, maybe we can convince people, if they're going to pay for the express lane, less people are going to want to use it because it costs money, which is going to congest traffic for everybody else. Instead of service it's supposed to serve as an express lane, if you don't need to get off at an exit that comes to you sooner, you can get downtown faster because that's your direct destination. That's the fucking point of an express lane.
Yeah, so, slower traffic, please move to the right.
Agency for Planning, or CMAP, has some new proposals laid out in its On to 2050 plan update released this week.
We've talked with a lot of people. I've heard with a lot of people that, they're experiencing extreme congestion. Managed lanes are a way for you to think about sort of how do you get to a free flow traffic lane. And part of that has to do with pricing the lane.
You heard that right. CMAP is suggesting adding what are known as managed lanes to several...
$1 million.
Sorry.
Pay more
that was
to use it.
The price of the lane.
Sections are on the Eisenhower from I-88 to Racine Avenue, I-90 from the Jane Addams to the I-94 merge.
Look at this.
From the Edens Junction to Hubbard Street.
This
94 from the...
Fuck these people. Fuck them. I'm sorry, my potty mouth is on overdrive tonight, but I
want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Enough is enough, man. Yeah. Enough is fucking enough.
Every time they want to raise money for something, it hits all the people who can't afford it. It penalizes the poor, and then the rich don't have to worry about it because they all take their helicopters wherever they want to go.
And I know you're not going to like me saying this, Ed, but congestion has increased because of all the bike lanes all over the city. I'm all for people biking. I'm all for people biking. I'm all for people getting exercise and eliminating, emissions from vehicles. But when those bike lanes and those using the bike lanes think that their rights supersede regular motorists because nobody wants to come up with a common sense plan to use underutilized and unused sidewalks off to the side, it's just adding and adding and adding to the congestion everywhere. And that they propose this as a solution to figure out how to monetize it and generate revenue from it, when all they're doing is adding the congestion everywhere. It's criminal, man. Oreo, he's sitting in front of the... Will you move? I can't navigate my mouse because he's sitting in front of the screen.
The Kennedy and Dan Ryan from Hubbard Street to 31st Street, I-55 from DuSable Lakeshore Drive to I-80.
Lakeshore Drive.
And I-55 between 9094 and I-355.
You know, they're going to want to, I remember not too long ago, they were proposing tolls for Lakeshore Drive. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but I'm not shocked. And it's all like, oh, how can we squeeze more revenue out of everybody? And it's like, no, dude, stop.
It's going to make things worse. Right now, congestion is bad enough. Adding tolls is going to make it worse. It's not going to alleviate anything. And all this money that's spent for these studies is just nothing but horseshit.
Full of it.
Some drivers not happy to hear about the idea with the cost of gas.
Some drivers.
Going
some,
up.
not all, some. Who can be for that? Oh, yeah. You want to charge me more money to ride on the roadways that my tax dollars already pay for? Sign me up.
Get more money out of us because they're making more lanes. Knock it off.
Others, like Dan Smith, say they'd consider paying more.
There are times when, yes, I wouldn't mind paying a toll.
Yeah, how much money did this guy make in his life?
But this time I do.
This guy likes taking it up the ass, too. So
Speaking of getting in and out of the city, the
Allegedly.
current express lanes on the Kennedy
Allegedly.
would be converted under this plan to include surge pricing during rush hour.
Surge pricing! I'm telling you, they got this freaking idea from rideshare.
People to shift to other modes. We are going to need to do something different if we.
You're going to need to do something different.
When these changes could happen. The woman we spoke with from CMAP says that IDOT and other key players would all have to come to the table and agree on them, of course. But she says many other states across the country on the East Coast to California, Colorado, and Texas have all adopted these managed tolled express lanes, and she believes that will be something we see in the future here in Illinois.
You stupid, ignorant son of a bitch, dumb bastard! Jesus Christ, I've met some dumb bastards in my time, but you outdo them all. Get over there!
Sorry, I had to override that.
It seems we were both quick to jump to the control board. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more can be said other than expect to pay more money, everybody, on top of the increasing gas prices. You're now going to have to pay for more congestion. That's what you're going to be paying for.
You know, Jerry, what I really want in my daily commute is not only to have to look for a place to park where I have to pay an exorbitant fee for parking, but I would like to find a way to make it more expensive for me to travel to that expensive parking spot.
You know, it's interesting, too, because so many people have learned that it really is not necessary to have to travel to work, having worked virtually from home during the pandemic. I would say there's a large percentage of the workforce that does not need to spend money on gas and commute all the time to go to locations and then pay for parking to do their jobs, because so much is done on the computer and can be done from home. Now that society is returning to normal and you have bosses or employers who insist on the employees coming back to work because they're fucking control freaks, even though their employees proved they could do their jobs from home, how can we squeeze more money out of people that are going to be required to come back now and not work virtually?
Yeah,
it's obscene.
Maybe that's what it is that they see that some more people are remote working from home. So how do we squeeze all the people who still have to commute? Yeah.
I think we have something new for the manifesto. Kathy recommends.
Okay, we got to get out the manifesto. Okay, I can
add the toll lane thing. Yeah, I mean, make a note. You don't have to add it now, but let's add a note about these toll lanes.
Okay, well, while I'm here, I'll load it up on my screen. I don't have to bring it up if you don't want it there.
He's got a good point.
How long will pizza delivery guy take to get to Ed's place for him to enjoy a fine Chicago slice?
It'll take no time, constitutional conservative, because Ed bakes his own.
Yeah. If I'm baking my own, it takes no time at all. Although I do occasionally like to order delivery from some of the local joints, because we got some really good pizza joints in Chicago. They make all kinds of styles. They make the thin crust. They make the deep dish. They make the stuffed. There's a couple places do that caramelized crust thing that's delicious. You got the one place that makes the pizza pot pie, which is, I guess it's technically pizza. Anyway, well, it's Pizza Friday, so I figured I should throw in, a little pizza rant in there.
I'm catching up on some stuff in the live chat. Art shares. This is why the Blade Runner universe is now considered a utopia compared to the dystopia that is Chicago.
Yeah, those lucky bastards have flying cars, though.
That's right. That's right. Where are our flying cars, Ed?
I don't know, Jerry. Although, really, at this point, well, if we can't have flying cars, we're going to need car boats. I'm absolutely adamant about this. Amphibious vehicles are the future. If you are an automotive manufacturer and you're not working on this plan, what the hell is wrong with you? The floods are coming.
All right, let's go into our next story. I found this in the Block Club Chicago latest stories and thought it was very, very relevant since we've reported on this before regarding the migrants being bused to Chicago. This comes to us from Madison Saavedra at Block Club Chicago. City Council's Latino caucus wants Lightfoot to issue a state of emergency to help care for the influx of immigrants. I have a feeling she might not have time to pay attention to this because she's being groomed by the DNC to run for governor. That's just my little speculative suspicion there, but let's go into the article. Nearly 3,000 people from Central and South America have been bused to Chicago from Texas since August 31st. Latino caucus members say a state of emergency would free up more resources to assist them. I also saw on Twitter, mayoral candidate Raymond Lopez mentioned something about thinking that migrants were being housed in the basement of the Chicago Public Library downtown, the Harold Washington Library. Did you see that tweet?
No. Is there room?
I don't know if it's true or not. I saw that Lopez tweeted it, though.
Well, if there's room down there and they're able to help them out, I mean, more power to them. I mean, help our immigrant friends out in a difficult time, and maybe they'll help us out in the future.
Dude, I'm all for helping these migrants, but I think we could give them more help by using all the vacant buildings that, have amenities like bathrooms and toilets and showers, not a basement in a library. But I guess we have to walk before we can run. The city council's Latino caucus is pushing Mayor Lori Lightfoot to make an emergency declaration that would increase available aid for nearly 3,000 migrants who've come to Chicago in the past 6 weeks. The group released a statement Wednesday asking for Lightfoot to issue a state of emergency, following in the steps of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. This will give the appropriate city agencies the ability to establish and operate more centers that will provide assistance for arriving asylum seekers, including respite, food, medical care, caseworker services, assessment of settlement options, as well as direct referrals to alternative emergency supports, caucus members said in the statement. The Chicago City Council Latino Caucus proudly stands behind Chicago's welcoming city ordinance and recognizes the work it will take to ensure any immigrant, asylum seeker, and refugee the adequate resources to adjust to their new environment. Governor J.B. Pritzker issued a state of emergency last month to tap National Guard members to help coordinate logistics and fast-track housing and services for the migrants who are being bused from Texas to Chicago and other Democratic-led cities like New York City and Washington, D.C. It's unclear if Lightfoot is considering the move locally. The mayor's office said in a statement Wednesday the city is committed to continuing our collaboration with the state of Illinois, Cook County government, nonprofit leaders, and federal partners to support the individuals and families who have arrived from Texas. Texas started sending busloads of migrants from Central and South America to Chicago in late August and hasn't slowed down. State and local officials have repeatedly slammed Texas Governor Greg Abbott for the move, saying he hasn't communicated with his counterparts about the needs of the migrants, and he has treated people inhumanely by shipping them across the country. Although, as we know, Mayor Lightfoot started shipping them without announcement to Burr Ridge. The city has turned to hotels and converted temporary shelters to house the thousands of immigrants since August. And let's not forget beach houses, as we reported on last Friday's show. Again, this is more of the same. Declare a state of emergency. Do it. Do it already. It's unconscionable. What is taking so long? Why is she busing them to Burr Ridge? Why is she busing them anywhere? when we have vacant properties and space in the city that could be utilized for this. Not beach houses, not basements of libraries, vacant buildings with individual units and amenities. How is this not possible? Priorities on the casinos, priorities on everything else. No priority here. She postures and virtue signals that this is a sanctuary city, and she has not declared a state of emergency as the governor has.
And I'm looking for, there was a story. Oh, yeah. There was a story from the Sun-Times, Jerry. And it was, she had her LaSalle Street plan.
I saw, actually, that was in the, I was thinking about that as an alt. We were so loaded up on stories. The only reason I didn't include that, and forgive me for interrupting you, I just want to mention, the only reason I didn't include that was because we're so heavy on stories. But we did report on that previously about conversion of the LaSalle Street corridor into housing, into apartment housing. Yeah, go ahead.
That was kind of why I brought it up, because I mean, she even mentions in her proposal here, you know, how they want to turn some of this into affordable housing, and I'm like, that's why they're not housing migrants there. She's got other plans. She doesn't want to rock the boat.
With all the money in those TIF funds, you could basically probably fund one of those empty buildings on LaSalle Street and provide probably all the housing you need for those migrants that are here in Chicago. Open up the TIF funds, state of emergency, use the TIF funds, the surplus of she doesn't want to do it. Because as you said, there's another agenda for all that property down on LaSalle Street, you know. And while they're going to, while they're also, I remember reading in that article, they're going to put aside 30% of that for affordable housing. You know, to my comment in the past, shouldn't all housing be fucking affordable?
And then,
More priorities. Yep. NASCAR, vroom vroom. You're right, Kathy. All right, I'm trying to pull up our next stories. Kind of coming towards the tail end of the show here.
Oh, did we break the story about the grocery store merger, Jerry?
We didn't, because I had all these other. I saw it. I mean, if you want to talk about
it, just mentioned it briefly.
Go ahead. I mean, you probably know more about it than I looked into the story, because I didn't include it, but share with us what happened.
Yeah, well, it's basically, we got two of the largest grocery store conglomerates are now merging into a mega grocery monopoly, and it's Kroger, who I believe owns the Marianos, and then the company, was it the Albertsons? Albertsons that owns Jewel. So we're going to have. So those two companies have decided that they want to merge. It's got to obviously be approved by,
and it will be, as all monopolies are. It will be approved.
So then basically, you know, that's bad news, because what that does is it consolidates the available grocery stores, so that now they can raise prices, they can provide worse products, and we can't do much about it besides go to, you know, the small mom and pop shops that are, you know, getting decimated right now. So, you know, or we grow our own food again, which is hard to do in a lot of places. So, you know, if you got issues with, you know, if you still want grocery stores to exist in a way that's not completely homogenized, you're going to want to contact your members of Congress and let them know you're not a fan of monopolizing the grocery store industry. That's it.
No, I mean, I'm glad you read up on the details, because I was looking at all these other stories to put in our show notes tonight, because we do have a pretty heavy show.
There's so much. I mean, it's Friday, so they do their news dump, right, Jerry? So all the juicy stories that we get here, it's like, okay, which ones do we pick from? which ones do we save for Tuesday?
And why do they dump all this stuff on Fridays? Because they know people are going to be busy on the weekends and not pay attention to the relevant, important stuff like this story. The attack on unions continues. This comes to us from Chicago tonight. Starbucks closing the unionized store in Chicago. The workers had a victory, and of course, Starbucks is now closing that store.
Starbucks is shutting down one of its first Chicago locations where workers unionized just days before the company was set to begin negotiations on a contract. The Edgewater coffee shop, located steps from the Bryn Mawr Red Line station, is set to close at the end of this month. As Chicago Tonight's Nick Blumberg reports, organizers and their supporters say the shutdown is a tactic to weaken the union.
Starbucks says
there's nothing more American than a union. Workers and employees teaming up together to make sure they're not exploited, to make sure they're making a fair wage, to make sure that their needs on the job as it relates to whatever healthcare they're offered and their safety and the amount of hours that they're working that is fair is honored. So naturally, big American company like Starbucks decides they're going to squash them like bugs. Who goes to Starbucks anymore? Can you afford a $4 cup of coffee, black coffee? That's what it cost last time I went, $3 or $4 for a large black coffee.
Yeah, I don't. I brew my own now, and I'll take that to work. When we had the lockdown, I bought myself a burr grinder. Just started grinding, beans. Mix and match. Find some whole beans that you like. Mix and match. Come up with a custom blend if you want. Brew your coffee. Bring it in a thermos.
Speaking of purchasing
so much
coffee
cheaper.
And groceries, there's a little market on the corner of my street here at Artesian and Devon. My grandmother used to go to this little market. I go there now. I get all my fresh produce there, my coffee, go to a little butcher shop in the back, get my meat. I used to go over to Walmart when it was convenient to purchase my stuff there, but I've embraced the fact that if my grandmother could go down the street to this small store, I should, and I do now. And also responded to the previous story regarding the grocery store monopoly that's forming. And now, where do you get your coffee when these fuckers want to punish their workers for unionizing to protect their rights? Because you know what? There wouldn't be a fucking Starbucks if there weren't baristas behind the counters.
the location at Bryn Mawr and Winthrop is closing down because of ongoing safety issues it couldn't solve.
Yeah. Bullshit.
And union supporter Carlos Toral says the store does have problems with safety, including incidents of harassment or even assault on a regular basis.
At the same time, it also is they're closing our union. They're ending this store's unionization, and that is 110% union busting. So it's just a really tricky situation. And the timing of it all is also pretty sketch and quite on the nose.
On the nose because workers say the closure was announced just days after they got a date on the books for their first bargaining session with the company, scheduled for later this month. Around the country, Starbucks has temporarily or permanently closed locations that unionized or that organizers say were interested, including in Buffalo, Kansas City, Seattle, and now in Chicago. In response, workers and their allies organized a so-called sip-in Thursday, asking members of the community to show their support by coming to the cafe and ordering drinks under the name Union Strong.
This is what the CEO wants to see, that there's a downside of joining a union, and we need to stand with the workers so that they can stay brave and not lose their livelihoods.
Starbucks has faced a raft of complaints from workers and the National Labor Relations Board over alleged retaliation against pro-union workers and locations, which the company has consistently denied. In a statement on the Edgewater location's shutdown, a spokesperson told WTTW News, "We continue to equip our partners with the training, policies, and information they need to address the societal challenges that cross our store thresholds every day. But when these efforts aren't enough to ensure our partners' safety, we will make the decision to close a store regardless of its revenue or union status." Because this location is unionized, workers can bargain with the company over the effects of the shutdown.
I really hope that the best interest of the partners are the main focus, because this store closure, it's still affecting all of my life, my bills, my day-to-day life.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Nick Blumberg.
Boycott Starbucks.
What does that mean? They're tinky. Oh,
Boycott
Starbucks.
Everybody. And hashtag it. Boycott Starbucks. And once again, yeah, Ed, thanks for posting this. Thanks for Case Study QB on Twitter for finding these clips. Also, they tagged us at Chicago Corner TV, so I'm glad they know who we are to share this with us. So we could have shared this story on our show tonight. And again, encourage everybody, fucking boycott Starbucks. Enough's enough. How do you make change? Stop patronizing these establishments that don't give a fuck about worker rights, about a standard of living, about meeting the simple basics that any employee at any of these huge multinational corporations does not want to does not want to honor. Because you know what? It's hard. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, Starbucks is unpatriotic. They're un-American that they're doing this bullshit. Yeah. And it is bullshit.
Yeah. And if you see, unions like just that are part of a company that hasn't completely embraced unions yet, only support the union shops. Let them know where your money is going and let them know where it isn't.
Now wait a minute, Jerry. Yes, I may work. One day I might work for Starbucks, says our friend Art. Art, I hope not. Art, you're far more talented to put your Art. You've got so much more going for you to direct your talents elsewhere. We're gonna have to talk after the show.
And Art, you probably make better coffee than Starbucks. You should start your own company and call it Art Bucks.
There you go. Here's another comment. Snork Y2K. John Deere did not even wait a year before eliminating jobs that union won last year. Sorry, Oreo's got his head on my hand, which is on my mouse, which is preventing me from navigating the stories. He's, I think, a little bit needy tonight. But let's go to our next story, which I felt was kind of positive. It was kind of a so I like to try to share some positive stuff after we're going through all the stuff that we want to find solutions for. Apparently, people in Bronzeville have found some solutions. This is reported by Jamie Nesbitt Golden. There are now affordable lofts in Bronzeville, a Black-owned dispensary, and more South Lakefront projects that got city council approval. A former Potbelly sandwich shop on Wabash Avenue will be converted into Black-owned cannabis dispensary Family Roots LLC. Good for them. Wednesday was a big day for the South Lakefront and City Council with a slew of new developments approved in the South Loop in Bronzeville, Northwestern Medicine's Bronzeville Clinic, a data center, affordable lofts, and a controversial South. Why should this be controversial? South Loop dispensary were all approved by older people. At least they did something right. Northwestern Medicine will be allowed to build a $130 million, 120,000 square foot facility on a vacant lot at 4800 South Cottage Grove Avenue. The clinic aims to alleviate the strain on Bronzeville residents forced to travel outside the neighborhood for health care. The facility is estimated to bring 1,500 construction jobs and 130 permanent jobs to the area and would be LEED certified. The developer also plans to build a public alley between 48th and 49th Streets. Work could begin in early 2023 and be completed by 2025. Meanwhile, Digital Realty will be able to expand its campus at 321 337th East 21st Street, with a 565,069 square foot, 13-story building housing 7 data center suites between the 3rd and 9th floors. Plans call for a bridge that would connect the new building with the existing one and the construction of a chiller plant to keep the building cool, along with additional cooling towers on the roof. The data company will cover the project's $500 million price tag. The center would create 60 to 120 temporary construction jobs in the first and second phases, developers told residents at a community meeting in June. The data center will employ 30 full-time employees and union engineers and have a daily maximum occupancy of 30 to 50 people. Parking would be available on the McCormick Place campus, developers said. In other city council business, an old warehouse once owned by the Nation of Islam will be converted into solar lofts, a mixed income building with 47 residential units, shopping, 25 parking spaces, and a solar-powered rooftop. Hooray for that. Developer 548 Capital, the black-led team behind 2 redeveloped apartment buildings in Auburn, Gresham, said the building will make 68% of its 68%, Ed. 68% of its units affordable. As opposed to the 30 to 20% everywhere else on the north side, and plans to have participants from its nonprofit workforce program install the solar panels. The project has the support of Alderman Pat Dowell. Also, a former Potbelly sandwich shop at 1146 South Wabash will be converted into a black-owned cannabis dispensary. Family Roots LLC CEO Matt Brewer told attendees at a recent planning commission meaning that the $650,000 project would create 30 to 50 construction jobs and 30 to 45 permanent positions, while nearby residents expressed concern about loitering and crime near the dispensary. Alderman Sophia King of the 4th told the zoning committee that she doesn't believe it will cause problems in the neighborhood. And you know what? It won't. Jobs, support for black-owned business, affordable housing. There's nothing about this story I don't like that I could bitch about. So I hope that this makes up for all the other bellyaching I've done throughout the beginning of the show and up to now.
Yeah, now if we can just get the city to stop swapping out all that land for public housing, we might have some progress moving forward on some things, right?
Art says the developer is expected to be bribed at some point in the process for this. Art, you're spoiling a happy story.
Yeah, and you know, we don't even have to bother even saying that anymore. It's typically assumed. Just saying.
All right.
Are you frozen, Jerry? No, you're not frozen.
No, I was moving on to the next story here.
He was just glaring at me disapprovingly.
I wasn't you. What, is that how that looked?
That's how that looked.
It wasn't my intention. All right. No, I was looking at my other screen to pull up the next story I wanted to read from, which is about genocidal maniac Christopher Columbus Day. Kaylee Padar at Block Club Chicago reports Indigenous Peoples Day should replace Columbus Day in Chicago, the coalition of politicians argue. Legislation that would officially recognize Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday in Chicago was introduced in 2019, but it is stalled in city council. It's surprising that this would stall given how much time they wasted to rename Lakeshore Drive, right?
It's the Italian Americans in the city council that are dragging their feet on this because they can't think of a decent Italian American to replace Christopher Columbus in their pantheon of what would you call it? Mythical idols. I don't know.
One is surprised that they wouldn't suggest a fictional one to their liking, like a Tony Soprano.
You know, Jerry. You know, we all grew up with the story of 1492 and Columbus sailing the ocean blue, and you know how he just kind of accidentally discovered America because he was looking for the West Indies. But we don't care about that, Jerry, because you know a good story is a good story.
It's mythology. You know, I have nothing but respect for Italians and culture, but if you're only going to, if you feel that the only way to prop up yourselves and your culture is to embrace someone who was wrongly presented historically as actually doing something that was worthwhile when he was a genocidal maniac, I would suggest that the Italian community look inward and perhaps, I don't know, think about elevating somebody like Leonardo da Vinci. They're a pantheon of other Italians in Italian culture.
Well, I think the other hurdle is finding the ones that you can actually link to America. I mean, even though
I don't think that here's the thing, Ed. I don't think that the ideal of America really factors into that equation anymore because we've been sold a mythological idea of what America is, because what we idealize America to be is not what it is. It's all bullshit. Okay,
in that case, then may I suggest that we build a statue to the man who invented the cannoli, because man, those are delicious.
There are a lot of worthwhile Italians that I think Italian culture should celebrate and elevate without the need to connect it to America. Embrace your culture, embrace your nationality, embrace your ethnicity. I don't understand why it has to. And you know, it's funny too, because like this need to connect it with, he discovered America, so we're the best. It's like, well, no, not really, because he basically began the genocide against Native Americans. And, you know, basically everything he did represents the imperialism of what America is today, which I'm not proud of at all. We are a nation of immigrants, and even that's been thrown by the wayside by those who, all the other immigrants, they came through, they did it legally. It's a different world now. It's not the same as when immigrants came through, and it was okay to let them through then to build America, but now it's not, even though a lot of the immigrants coming through now are being, you know, given the jobs that corporations and companies don't want to pay Americans a fair living wage for. But of course, we don't go after those corporations that represent the worst of American business and capitalism.
Let me think. Okay, you know, maybe they're right. The live chat might be right. Joe Pesci. We could, because I mean, without Joe Pesci, the Four Seasons doesn't happen. You know, Frankie Valli has no career without Joe Pesci.
Yeah, we got to find some Pesci clips to bring into our little.
Yeah, Lana, she brings up Luciano Pavarotti. Yeah, he was
I like that one.
That dude was a heck of a tenor.
Back then, there wasn't little U.S. foreign policy to drive them from their countries. Yeah, right? True. Yep, absolutely. Why are they coming to America? Why are they pouring into our open borders? Because we're ruining the countries that they're coming from. Because of our intervention and our interference and destabilizing governments. That's why they're coming here, because we're destabilizing other countries for our imperialist agenda.
Yeah, so we could just go to America because they won't possibly attack themselves. Meanwhile, our roads and bridges are crumbling. People are starving. People are trying to make ends meet and put a roof over their head.
Back to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes.
More than 100 other cities and 9 countries across the country, and 9 counties across the country, recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. But legislative efforts to swap the holiday in Chicago are stuck in city council, and a bill moving to recognize the holiday in the state has been tabled since 2017. Chicago, again, you know, I'm sure Lori's focusing on her eventual gubernatorial campaign than to be focused on, you know, the little petty issues like this that have been tabled since 2017. Chicago Public Schools made the switch in February of 2020, but Mayor Lori Lightfoot has not supported making Indigenous Peoples Day a city holiday. She also fully expects controversial Columbus Day statues in the city to be returned after being mothballed amid 2020 protests, despite the city's Monument Committee's recommendation to remove them.
You dicks, what the fuck were you thinking? You make some kind of secret agreement with the Italians. You're out there measuring your dicks with the Italians, seeing who's got the biggest dicks. You're out there stroking your dicks over the Columbus statue. My dick is bigger than yours and the Italians. I have the biggest dick in Chicago.
Spending too much time stroking her big dick, which is why she's not paying any attention to this request that's been tabled since 2017. At a news conference Monday at Potawatomi Park, 73340 North Rogers Avenue, politicians urged that the bills to change the focus of the holiday move forward. Several protesters from the Chi Nation Youth Council interrupted the press conference, however, arguing the coalition doesn't adequately represent Indigenous people. They also criticized several of speakers chosen to appear. Leaders from the Indigenous Peoples Day Coalition who organized the event weren't able to speak over the protesters' drums and bullhorn. So instead, a few of the elected officials at the event moved inside to speak about their efforts to officially recognize the holiday in the city and the state. Alderman Maria Hodden of the 49th spoke about the trauma communities of color have suffered due to the atrocities of colonization for decades and the importance of recognizing how history impacts the present. Having holidays being able to note, mark, celebrate, and acknowledge together is part of the healing process, Haddon said. It's part of recognizing the trauma that we're still experiencing this morning. This isn't the press conference that was planned, and there's still more work that needs to be done within the Indigenous community, within the Black community, and within Chicago. Haddon said, recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day sets the stage for an environment where our communities can have healing, have that growth, and move forward with full acknowledgement of who we are to work on the futures we all deserve. Senator Mike Simmons, who represents the far north side, emphasized communities need to continue to reimagine what justice and redemption look like as they reckon with U.S. history and its ongoing impacts on poverty, literacy rates, and housing insecurity. Is it just celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, or is it also looking at how we talk about the history of Indigenous people in our schools? Simmons said. We always talk about Native Americans like they're no longer here, and they still are. They're my constituents. Haddon said she's hopeful the ordinance recognizing the holiday will be passed soon, given the number of city council members who will be retiring soon. I look forward to some of the new folks who are coming in who can maybe move past these really weird, sluggish politics, Haddon said. I don't know why this is controversial. I really encourage people to have some courage to do what's right, not just morally and ethically, but for the constituents we represent. Now, on that note, I'm sorry, before I move on that note, Ed, anything you want to add to that particular coverage?
Oh, I was just looking on the internet to see if there were any Italian Americans that we could, put some statues up for, since apparently the only way we can honor people these days and have it matter is to have them on a statue, right? Unless we name like a Lakeshore Drive for one.
Yeah, unless we rename streets that connect the city that have no connection to anybody to serve virtue signaling agendas.
Yeah,
all right, so
I was looking at a list of famous Italian Americans, and it wasn't such a great list. I'm just saying, Anthony Fauci was on it, Antonin Scalia. A bunch of people that I'm not sure I want to build a statue for. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So since our ineffective mayor is, dragging her ass on this while she's filing her nails and the city burns, here are three ways to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day in Chicago, as reported by the Block Club Chicago staff. Kudos out to them for all the stories that they cover that we share here. While the city dismantled its Columbus statues in 2020, Mayor Lori Lightfoot and other city leaders have resisted replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous. Why do you think that is, Ed? Pandering to the Italian-American community, perhaps?
Yeah, they're taking it as a slight against their nationality.
When they shouldn't. Why would you want to be associated with a genocidal maniac? Because you think he discovered America while committing genocide against our Native American population.
Well, because we told you, Jerry, he sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
It's the propaganda that we are brainwashed with in school. We never learned all of the true history of the United States, Ed. We only learned what was whitewashed and what they wanted us to know. Did you ever read about or learn in history classes about the attempted coup against Franklin Delano Roosevelt by the capitalist industrialists of the United States?
Of course not.
The DuPonts. They tried to recruit Smedley Butler, who was a World War I veteran, to get all the affected veterans to rise up and basically remove FDR from office because they were trying to institute fascism. Of course, we never learned about it. I mean, it's FDR's. Yeah. It's unfortunately to FDR's short-sightedness that he didn't allow Smedley Butler's testimony in Congress to be widespread, given that it was a plot against he himself. But I think that he didn't want to destabilize Americans' faith in what the American system was all about at the time. Sadly, that was a very, very bad, I think, decision on his part, because everybody should have known about it. And it
yes,
should
as first those of you who are saying, "Oh, Smedley Butler, he sounds familiar." He's the guy who said war is a racket.
Yeah, learned it firsthand.
I guess he was one of the early whistleblower canaries about the military-industrial complex, and it's history from there. Because I mean, we all know what's going on now. How many billions are going to the military-industrial complex for that wonderful proxy war?
I can't emphasize enough, if you have not seen it, look for it. It may still be on Showtime. Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States. It's a 12-part documentary that shares with you everything they didn't want to teach us in history class about our country. It is not an anti-American program. It's basically presenting all the facts that were hidden from us in understanding the true history and the true nature of a lot of what this country is about. Arturo, Netflix should make a series on the life of Columbus and show his atrocities, Schindler List style, and ought to educate America to really turn on this holiday. Yeah, you know what, Ed, Art? Damn, wish I had multi-million dollars to do that. I wonder if Hollywood would greenlight that, though, given the Italian-American influence that's there that, practically prevented The Godfather from being made.
You you may find on the Odyssey.com platform, that's ODYSEE.com, if you search for the Untold History of the United States and Oliver Stone, you might find a copy of it there.
Ed, can you check out Rokfin while I continue with the story to see if there are any super chats we can share?
Let's see. I think Dominic gave us another tip here or two. Let me see if I can pull that up. Hold on.
Getting back to the history we've been brainwashed to believe was real regarding Columbus that was actually bullshit. If you want to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Genocidal Maniacs Day, Block Club Chicago shares legislative efforts to swap the holidays in Chicago have stalled despite Chicago Public Schools ending its commemoration of Columbus Day and more than 100 other cities making the change. The Joint Civic Committee of Italian American 70th Annual Columbus Day Parade will kick off at 1 p.m. downtown. But here are 3 ways you can celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day in Chicago on Monday. Number 1, calling for change. The Indigenous Peoples Day Coalition Illinois, with more than 195 supporting groups, will host a press conference at 11 a.m. at Potawatomi Park, 7340 North Rogers Avenue, calling on Cook County to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Perhaps there's some benefit in calling upon Cook County, since Lori Lightfoot, despite bragging about her big dick all the time, is pretty much a eunuch as far as it relates to actually taking any action locally. Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, Congresswoman-elect Delia Ramirez, State Senator Mike Simmons, State Representative Will Guzzardi, Alderman Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez of the 33rd, Alderman Maria Hodden of the 49th, and Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates are all expected to attend. That is linked here in the show notes below in our description box. You can click on our show notes, go to our Google Drive, find this link to this Block Club Chicago article, and click. Actually, let me open it up here and see what they say. There's more information on the event as linked from Block Club Chicago. Give it a moment to load. Meanwhile, there we go. Why should Cook County pass File 210565, question and answers for the Indigenous People Day resolution for Cook County, September 2022? All the information is there. What's another way? There will be a panel, Indigenous Scholar question and answers, and virtual author talk. Curators at the Chicago Historical Museum. Sorry, guys, I'm speaking too fast. A little bit excited on this. Curators at the Chicago History Museum will host an afternoon of Indigenous Peoples Day events at the museum at 1601 North Clark Street starting at 1:30 p.m. At 1:30 p.m. in the Guild Room, Director of Collections Julie Roblewski and Project Archivist Lydia Wood will discuss the work the museum has done to collect Indigenous objects. At 3 p.m. in the Guild Room, Indigenous scholar Starla Thompson will share stories from and the history about the Potawatomi people. At 4 p.m. on Zoom, Dr. John Lowe, professor at Ohio State University, will speak about his book Imprints, The Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians and the City of Chicago. Admission is free for Illinois residents. For more information, again, linked at Black Club Chicago, where you can find in our show notes below. Lastly, the third thing, there will be an Indigenous Peoples Day Festival. The city's first Indigenous Peoples Day Festival continues 6:30 to 10 p.m. Monday at Old Town School of Folk Music at 4544 North Lincoln Avenue. The two-night festival, sponsored by Sky People Entertainment and the Old Town School of Folk Music, features musical performances and dancing by Indigenous artists, showcasing a variety of Indigenous rock, EDM, hip-hop, Latin fusion, and more. Admission is free and donations will be accepted at the door. You can reserve tickets online here. I have an amazing idea, Ed. Remember when we reported last week on the city spending, what was it, $6 million to fund that nonprofit here in Chicago to celebrate the Great Chicago Fire by burning down effigies of buildings in the Chicago River?
Oh, yeah.
I forgot what was the name of that. Can you look up the name of that company that they gave that $6 million to? While you look them up, here's my proposal. Why can't the city of Chicago give that organization the money to sponsor a citywide Indigenous Peoples Day festival? They can go do it out on Northerly Island. That, I think, would be a far more resourceful use of city funds and solve the problem regarding how obscene it is to continue to celebrate Columbus Day or waste time not changing things to Indigenous Peoples Day. It struck me as I'm looking at these three ways to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. These are, I'm very glad that they are being celebrated, but these are Band-Aids to the larger problem that are ineffectual. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who is focused on how the DNC is going to escalate it to the gubernatorial, a run for the governor's office that is really more a play to run for Congress. Were you able? Why am I forgetting the name of that group?
Are you talking about Red Moon?
Red Moon, yeah. Wouldn't it be cool to take money and fund Red Moon to do an Indigenous Peoples Day celebration on Northerly Island or downtown or elsewhere instead of these three little Band-Aid solutions that I'm glad they're happening. One is in a park, one is in the Chicago History Museum. I mean,
I don't know if we want to give them money.
All right, well, okay, so let's not give it to.
Just picture this for a second, Jerry.
What I'm talking about is finding a group that has the infrastructure to do what a Red Moon does citywide is what I mean. Maybe not Red Moon, but
yeah, because I mean
them for that, and it was a complete bust.
Yeah, because if it's like a pattern with Red Moon to basically go, okay, this time we're gonna put Native Americans and their habitat floating on the river, and we're gonna set that on fire. That's gonna be a no-go, Jerry.
I agree. So let's find the alternative for Red Moon. Dip into our city coffers that had $6 million to give to Red Moon for that horribly ill-conceived Chicago Fire Festival, and focus on Indigenous Peoples Day citywide. Yeah, Miguel H. Imagine Lori Lightfoot in Congress or in the Senate. Yikes.
Must we?
Well, as Shane shared with us in the beginning of the show, the DNC seems to think it's a good idea.
I think they're just floating it out there to see what kind of response they're going to get, and then they're hoping that, channels like ours are going to pick up on that and have conversations about it. The thing is, our channel, we know better. We know to talk. We'll talk about it, but
not in the ways they want us to.
Not in the ways that they're wanting us to, because they're hoping that their friendly media people are going to go, oh, hey, this is an interesting idea. This is what they want to do. Well, maybe we should think about that, and maybe we should vote harder.
Yeah, vote harder. That's what she said.
Don't vote harder.
All right. So our last story of the evening is really more of a community update news.
Before we get to that, Jerry.
Yeah.
We had one Rokfin super chat thing from Dominic. He was commenting on, he must be talking about the unionizing Starbucks story. He says there's also nothing more American than corporations preventing their workers from unionizing, including using force if necessary.
Well, Dominic, I understand your sarcasm. As I mentioned earlier, it's completely un-American and unpatriotic. And, I'm remembering the rant that I talked about with Kit on Hardlands Media from Bill Burr, where one of Bill Burr's critics was complaining to Bill Burr about the fact that Bill Burr seemed to have positive thoughts about socialism. And Bill Burr responded, "How's capitalism working for you?"
Yeah.
To respond to what Dominic shared there, that's exactly how capitalism is working for you. It's deciding it wants to punish unions for the advancement of worker rights and a fair living wage and all the other things that workers are routinely denied these days in the name of capitalism.
Well, Jerry, I mean, we can't have obscene profits if we start paying our workers what they're actually worth.
Yeah. Jim Cree, I feel like the working class has slipped through the cracks. Where's the safety nets gentrify me? Yeah, Kathy, it's psychopathy. All right. Everybody looking for some fun stuff to do this weekend before Halloween approaches in the following couple weeks, which I'm excited for. I don't have a big party to go to yet, but I'm going to make up for it this year, given the fact that Halloween was canceled for the previous 2 years. I got my suit ready. I'm just looking for the party. But until we find the great parties, Halloween parties in the next couple weeks for our Halloween broadcast this weekend, Block Club Chicago is reporting that the Open House Chicago is taking place this weekend, and there's a lot to see, as reported by Maya McDonald. Your ultimate neighborhood guide to Open House Chicago this weekend is at Block Club Chicago, linked in our show notes below in our show description. The popular event features in-person and self-guided tours for more than 150 architecturally, culturally, and historical significant Chicago sites. Open House Chicago will give people a chance to get a close-up look at some of the city's most architecturally interesting buildings and locations when it returns this weekend. It's Saturday and Sunday with more than 150 architecturally, culturally, and historically significant sites. Repeating from the headline, there will also be a self-guided tour of some locations all month. The tours will highlight buildings in more than 20 community areas, including Chatham and Hermosa, which have sites participating for the first time. Longtime favorites such as Dankhaus German American Cultural Center, Boxville, and Our Lady of Sorrows Basilica National Shrine will return. Other sites will be new, including the Austin Public Library branch, Architectural Artifacts, and Kenwood United Church of Christ.
I'm sorry, Jerry. Did you say Dankhaus?
Did I pronounce it right? Dankhaus?
I don't know, but I'm reading Dankhaus, and wow. I mean, lots of places are pretty dank after that thunderstorm with all the floods.
That's true.
But they got a whole cultural center in one of them.
They do.
That's pretty cool.
A full list of participating sites with hours and addresses is on the Open House Chicago website. And maybe I should open that here so we can take a look at what that website looks like and share the address in the chat. It's called openhousechicago.org. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to
way ahead of you.
Thank you, Ed. That's what that's what I rely on Ed for. My I shouldn't be admitting this, but my hands are not as fast as Ed's. Is that what she said?
Yeah, we don't have that in our reaction clips.
We don't. So there's the website at openhousechicago.org sites. Block Club Chicago continues to share. People can use the new Chicago Architecture Center app for exclusive experiences and self-guided tours of some sites, according to the center. There's also in-app recommendations for restaurants, coffee shops, unique sites, and stores participating in Open House Chicago neighborhoods. Illinois residents who show proof of their Chicago Architecture Center app download can also get into the center for free October 1st through 16th, where there will be a global traveling activation called Say It Loud, which aims to highlight the work and identities of local diverse designers. The activation is a collaboration with the National Organization of Minority Architects, according to the center. Here's which sites you can view sorted by neighborhood area. Austin, North Lawndale, and East Garfield Park, Beverly, Bridgeport, Chinatown, Little Village, and Pilsen, Bronzeville, Chatham, South Shore, Hyde Park, and Kenwood, downtown West Loop and the near West Side, Humboldt Park and Hermosa, Lincoln Square and Ravenswood, near North Side, Uptown, Rogers Park, and Westridge. Now, I'm also going to share a link in the live chat here to the Blog Club Chicago article where you can also click on the links to those different neighborhoods and see what each neighborhood is showcasing. Again, all in the show notes. It is an open house. Thanks, Kathy. Now, Ed and I were talking off air yesterday in our meeting with Kira. There's another event happening this weekend. Actually, two events. We're going to try to see if we can catch that documentary on Harold Washington tomorrow, Punch 9. Yeah. I will talk with you after the show, Ed. We can see what theater it's at. I think there was a noon show we were thinking about attending. I don't know if anybody else in the live chat wants to see the Punch 9 Harold Washington documentary. Maybe we can share on our Twitter before tomorrow which theater we're going to be at what show. Get a little viewer gathering. And are we still planning on Sunday night? Because I emailed that venue but haven't heard back on how we can join their how we can reserve our spot.
I don't know. I mean, we could just show up and try and get our name on the list, but otherwise, I don't know if they need us to sign up way ahead of time.
I'm afraid of not.
Did we tell them what we're talking about?
Yeah, we're going to participate in Mayor Lightfoot's Chicago karaoke competition and show up as the News Brothers.
Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, oh baby, don't.
Now we're planning. What our plan was to get on, was to reserve our spot at the Uptown Lounge, and their Chicago karaoke competition takes place this Sunday night. What time did they start? 11 p.m.
Well, their website said 10. And I don't know if that's accurate because all I saw was what was on their calendar. So
yeah. And while we are encouraged at the city website to go to the venue to get on the list to perform, unfortunately, the Uptown Lounge's announcement on Facebook, I don't think they've responded. You know what? I shouldn't say that. Maybe they did, and I haven't seen it yet. But at least as late as this afternoon, I did not see a response to my request on their Facebook event page regarding the karaoke contest, how to sign up. So I'm going to check out Facebook here, but we're hopefully going to, Ed, Kira, and I are going to be at the Uptown Lounge. Ed, as I look on Facebook, I'm going to see if, do you have an address?
The Uptown Lounge is located at 1136 West Lawrence Avenue in the historic Uptown neighborhood in Chicago.
Let me see if I can find their
steps from the Red Line Lawrence stop if you're taking public transportation.
Yeah. Now, of course, Slack takes forever to open. Let me see if I can open.
They're right next door to the Aragon Ballroom, or as they call it, the Scaragon Ballroom in October.
And right around the corner from the historic Uptown Theater, which is sadly still in a horrible state of disrepair. Okay, so here we go. Oh, actually, the karaoke at Uptown Lounge, Chicago. Let's see here. Looking at events. I'm looking for this on YouTube on Facebook right now. Oreo, you're going to give me a kiss.
It's like, no, man, I got to do my live stream reaction show.
Okay, here it is. Uptown Lounge. So I shared the link in our Slack regarding this. So I'm going, sorry, everybody. I'm trying to see if they actually acknowledged my request for how do we sign up for this. Because as I mentioned, Ed and Kira and I want to go up here. And our song of choice was going to be the Blues Brothers, Everybody Needs Somebody to Love. Because here in Chicago, everybody does need somebody to love. And we thought that would be like a song bringing people together. Now I'm in the discussion and I am not seeing any response to my request about how you reserve your spot. So, yeah, I guess we're just gonna, I mean, maybe I can call them tomorrow, Ed, and find out.
Or we just show up, before they start at 10 and sign up, I guess.
What worries me is like if there was some place to sign up that we can't find, is being told we can't.
Well, why would they make it so difficult to sign up for this thing, Jerry?
That's what I don't know. They've got a page.
I mean,
reserve your
unless
spot.
this is a rigged thing, I mean, do they rig things in the city, Jerry?
Do they rig things here in the city of Chicago?
Hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky. Oh, strange. Weird. Well, don't you say strange or weird? I mean, hinky, that has no meaning.
Do they rig things here in the city of Chicago? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm unaware of whether they rig things in the city of Chicago, Jerry.
Well, here's what gets me about this. They have a Facebook page. This is what's linked from the City of Chicago karaoke citywide competition, right? Chicago Sings Karaoke Competition. Reserve your slot. This is citywide. This is the Uptown Lounge Chicago. I asked them, where do we sign up for our slot? Because this is where we're directed, and there's no response. Our day is Sunday, October 16th. Join us. Sign up and sing. Where? Because when you click on it, there's nowhere to sign up on the city's page either.
Okay, here, hold on. We got okay. I found a link here, a separate link that says karaoke at Uptown Lounge Chicago with host karaoke Zach.
I think they regularly do karaoke there, separate from this, and that's what I took that link to be. But I don't think that if you can bring that up, does that talk at all about the city's competition?
I'm looking on that page to see if there's anything on here regarding her karaoke contest, and I am not seeing it yet.
And Kathy is sharing with us it's probably full, which I hope it's not.
I can't imagine it would be.
If there's nowhere for people to sign up.
Yeah, if nobody knows how to sign up, then how can they have a full sign up list?
We got a $1 super chat from our friend Kathy. Kathy, dear, here you go. Here's Mayor Lightfoot campaigning.
Is that me gold?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here, this is what you're looking for, right?
We got to find some new, fresh Lori Leprechaun stuff. But thank you, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's what we're planning on doing. And again, we're going to update everybody on our Twitter. If we sign up or not, I guess we're going to show up whether we can sign up or not.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Miguel H shares. Let's see here. Is there a way to open that up on your end, Ed?
Oh, he's just posting a link to the PDF. I think Kira looked through that the other day, and it had a bunch of broken links on it.
Yeah.
So maybe they came up with the PDF before they actually had finalized all the other stuff.
Yeah, the links were broken.
I got.
Leave it to the city of Chicago to promote this and not have any links where you can actually sign up.
I'm on the Uptown Lounge Chicago page over on Facebook right now, and they have a post from October 7th.
I saw that too. The last,
and all they're just posting the Chicago Tribune article.
Yeah.
So where do we sign up? And I see where you posted asking where can we get on the list.
Yeah, exactly. No response.
Where do we sign up? Oh wait, here's there's a post right before that from October 6th that says reserve your slot. But it doesn't have.
I'll tell you where.
We can hit the button that says we're going, but that doesn't really reserve.
Myself. Yeah, I did for myself, but
reserve your round one slot at chicagosingskaraoke.org. Yeah, this is a circular sign up here. The chicagosingskaraoke.org is the city site, which tells you to go to sign up at the bars, and then telling you to go back to the city site.
Blowjob! Blowjob! Blowjob!
This is your typical Chicago operation here, Jerry.
What I'm worried about is the reason there's no sign up is because this guy is showing up everywhere to win that $5,000 grand prize.
Everybody in the whole jail block, whose dance the Trinity jail has arrived. Shifty Henry said the buck, for heaven's sake. No one's looking, now's the chance to make a break. Bugsy turned to Shifty and he said, Nix, Nix, I wanna stick a run and what I get a my kick, let's rock. Everybody, let's rock.
He should.
Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place?
Okay, hold on. So we're at the chicagosingskaraoke.org, and at the top of the screen it says, please note that online registration is now closed, but a limited number of walk-ins may be accepted at each participating venue.
Fuck them, they never had a link up. They never had one to begin with. I was looking early this week.
We heard about this thing like minutes after they posted that stuff last week, right?
Yeah.
I saw nothing about online registration.
It was a circular go here, go here, go here with no links to register.
Okay.
Anybody knows where anybody registered for this thing citywide that the mayor is like prancing around promoting? Let us know. But actually, yeah, go ahead.
When Cub tickets go on sale and they put you in the virtual rating room and stuff, it's more legitimate than this.
Yeah. Kappelman ruined the restoration of the Uptown Theater. I have no doubt, Kathy, along with the other things that he's ruined. I know that the Uptown Theater has been stillborn for quite some time since Rahm Emanuel announced that there was going to, and thankfully there have been residents of the community there who've been fighting to preserve it. It's got landmark status, but so long as nothing happens with efforts to restore it and put money into it, it's
pretty sad what's happening to a number of the theaters. The Congress Theater is really going to hell.
Another one, yeah.
We just keep seeing these places close down, and they can't find anybody to restore and reopen and get them up and running again, and it's sad.
There was a big development company, I believe it was called Farpoint, that was very, very vested and involved when Rahm Emanuel announced one of the few good things he did at the end of his administration, the restoration of the Uptown Theater. The pandemic happened and suddenly all the funding went away. They were going to be relying on, I think, some state grants, some city grants to also help support what private investors were going to do to restore that. The Uptown Theater, I think, is the largest. It's got the most amount of seats of any remaining movie palace in the country, if I'm not mistaken. They would refer to it as an acre of seats, more seats than the Chicago Theater. I've been in there, not legally in the past, exploring it when I was young and stupid. And, but all kidding aside, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful structure and beautiful theater. Going off on a side note here, talking about this Open House Chicago, exploring all these great places that still are around. it would be really nice to see the Uptown restored to its former glory and able to participate in that yearly Chicago open house. But I digress. Angela Sangster shares in the live chat, I'll be glad when Lightfoot isn't mayor anymore. One, because I love Chicago and she's terrible for it. And if she isn't mayor, you guys won't do those horrifying graphics anymore, right? Right?
Which
What
horrifying graphics are you talking about? I have no idea what kind of horrifying graphics you could possibly mean.
I remember Ed shared with me after one of the shows. I guess you watched this on your big screen TV and never really realized how horrifying that graphic was until you.
Oh my God! When you cast Chicago Corner to your television, I mean, I got a 42-inch set, but I mean, some people have these big 50, 60-inch TVs, and we go full screen with Lightfoot. Oh my God, it's horrifying. It's seriously disturbing.
Well, that's what she is, disturbing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we've gotten a long show tonight. We're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. I never have a problem going long. That's what she said. But I really appreciate everybody that stuck with us. We still have 12 viewers in the chat. I think we had up to 18 or 20 viewers at the height of our reporting at the beginning of the show with Shane Coughlin, who, again, I want to thank from KRTD Media for joining us to report on the DNC's Endgame regarding our reviled Mayor Lightfoot. My eyes. Hey, Warren, good to have you here. Oh, sweet hell, I just made it worse. Oh, we've been invited to a secret show tonight at midnight Eastern with Warren and Jimmy.
Those are always fun.
Yeah, if I can forage for food and finish before then, Warren. Ed?
Yeah, they're on Eastern time over there. They do their secret shows at like tomorrow.
So midnight their time is 11 o'clock our time.
Yeah,
and
it's still pretty late though. We're Jerry's a night owl, but I'm probably passed out at 11:03.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, like I said, Warren, if I can get some dinner before then, yeah, I'll come on over because as Ed said, I'm a night owl.
Well, here I am.
So, all right, Ed, anything you want to share? Everybody check out that open house over the weekend all across Chicago. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, after we go off the air, let's check out our AMC theaters and see where we can see Punch 9 tomorrow.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. And then one final plea. If you see Kid Cabello in your city, do not approach him. If he's somewhere in your city, possibly enjoying a succulent Chinese meal, just make sure that you let us know where he is, where you last saw him, so we can make sure that they get back where we need them to be for proper, what do we call that?
Reprogramming?
Proper reprogramming and debriefing. Yes. No, that's not right.
I love how you reference when we first reported on this.
Get your hand off my penis! No. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
What, the Guy Fawkes mask? Yeah.
No. Well, when you said that was a lab. That was a lab experiment that went out of control.
Yes, Project Phoenix was not the thing we thought it was going to be. We have to make sure that we dispose of the extra clones that didn't work out, and we have to make sure that they're put to use in ways that we cannot describe on this channel without getting demonetized. So again, if you've seen Kid Cabello in your city and if it's not Chicago, please let us know. send a note to Jerry at chicagocorner.tv. Just let us know the last known location, and we will dispatch our operatives to take care of the problem.
Because as Ed previously reported, there is a protocol. They're supposed to clock in and out. They're not just supposed to go out on their own.
Yeah, well, that was the plan. It kind of derailed, I think, honestly, a couple of them got hungry. They found a Chinese restaurant, and then everything went to hell.
Kit sightings. So, Angela, if you're never tired of watching that, you got to watch the long supercut on YouTube of the whole segment that Ed and I were involved with Kira. We were laughing so hard, I swear to God, I was going to pass out. Remember that whole segment I subclipped, Ed?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you can. That's in the video archive. Yes. Do you remember the title of that?
It's the Cabello Clone Update: Attack of the Clones on our YouTube channel at Chicago Corner.
Yes, they do. Actually, I need new headphones. These are killing my ears. Ouch.
Well, let's take them off. In the meantime, everybody, Ed, thanks again for joining tonight. As always, it's always wonderful to have a co-pilot here celebrating Pizza Friday. Anything else you want to share before we log off?
Oh, sure. I got merch. Go to edheller.com, edheller.com, and there should be a link to the merch shop there, or edheller.com/merch. And if you want to make Chicago-style pizza at home, head to realdeepdish.com and learn how to make deep dish pizza, Chicago tavern-style thin crust, the caramelized crust, Pequod style. And there's even some basic instructions on how to make stuffed pizza.
And my plea to everyone in the chat, if you're new to the show, please make sure to subscribe. Make sure to share our channel on social media, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter, and we put up our pre-show promotional announcements. Let people know we're here in Chicago. Kathy shares, Lori resign. Here's Ed's link for anybody to get merchandise. Please check out that link. Try to also wean yourselves off of YouTube and join us on Rokfin, where your donations will go a lot farther than the pennies that YouTube trickles over to us from the super chats there. So as always, gang, as we go into the weekend, please make sure to, especially if you're living in Chicago, stay safe, be vigilant, like those residents were that called the police regarding that tragic story we reported earlier in the show. That's what I mean by be vigilant, man. When the police are ineffective and can't do their fucking jobs, we gotta protect each other. Watch out for each other. Always stay safe. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Join us Tuesday when my colleague Kira McCann will be headlining the show, along with Ed and I will return next Friday. Stay safe, Chicago.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.